The blue button, like the blue pill.
I was just gonna say,
Oh,
I the same thing
the
flashed
brain
through my
with the
head.
yeah, man, the little blue pill just makes it, but it makes it easy, not hard. All
That's
right,
that
bootleg Toyka, what's
thing.
going on? Lynn's the Rap Boy, Nim Studios, fun fake name. How are you guys? Hit that live chat if you haven't yet. Bootleg Toyka, what is going on? Grayskull Toys, I've got something right here beside me. I'm going to be talking about it in a quick moment here as well. Simutco, I've got a tab with your name on it, homie. The fuck you doing over there these days, man? I think we could ask that every week, but the fuck is Simon up to over there this week, man? Homie's building fucking mock aquariums. Pocket salsa. A packet of salsa.
Right.
Dude, mad respect, homie. I've actually even showed that post that you ended up posting earlier on this week to a couple of people, man. Because you're absolutely on fucking point, man. I know that a lot of us are kind of hitting that, like, buck. There's been a lot of losses and groundbreaking or earth-shattering things happening to a lot of us in this scene this past year, and I appreciate you acknowledging that, man, but also acknowledging that, like, if you can put that work in there, keep putting that in there. Don't throw in the towel or anything, right? As I would say, typically, don't let the bad guys win. You know, you got to imagine that you're Superman. If Lex Luthor wanted to stop Superman, he found out that Superman's superpower is actually just being happy, and he was like, how the fuck do I stop Superman from saving the world? Oh, I know, just make him sad as hell. Don't let the bad guys win, man. If you can. Little bits every day. Daniel Antel, what is going on, man? Street Fight SPDX, what is going on, homie?
What's up, dude?
Hey, B, how are you?
Good. You had a meetup recently. Let's talk about that. I am
Yeah.
we haven't really talked about that. I knew it was happening. But Grayskull Toys and Dre. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And you know what? This is what I love about it, dude. Like, admittedly, Canada's not like we've talked about this before. Like, each one of those guys had to go about an hour and a half driving, like, and highway driving, right? So it's not like that's an hour and a half of like driving through a town or some shit. Like, they actually had to be like fucking going like one whatever. And then meanwhile, like, you know, it was like a 45-minute little subway rip, and admittedly I got lost trying to get out of the subway, so held those bastards up in the parking lot a little bit longer as well as I scrambled like a friggin' rat in a maze trying to be like, the fuck, how did I get out of this bish? But yeah, man, what's beautiful is literally like Dre Aze's gorgeous dude, man. The fact that like he and I were able to kind of set up like and coordinate, like being able to link up. The fact that kind of on a whim, my the little light bulb was like, oh shit, fuck yeah, Grayskull Toys, and like I think it was last episode that basically kind of was like, dude, hit. And then even like had to tell Dre, like, hope you don't mind, man. He's like, more the merrier. Grayskull Toys is kind of like, hope it's cool. I'm like, more the merrier. LM9 that morning, I'm like, hey, I kind of forgot you want to come, man. He's like, I'm working, but like, best of luck. Dre's a gem. That guy's a fucking gem. The Sculpey store is fucking insane, man. That as well. But just fucking lovely to be able to get to see those dudes. And then admittedly, even though I knew it was coming up, I even told Grayskull the morning of. He was like, I hope you don't mind, man. Like, I've got some stuff for some Toys Alive giveaways. And maybe something here from you. And I'm like, motherfucker, dude. I was like, I'm looking over at the fucking island all week, being like, I've got to find time to like do some like actual like personalized, painted up thing for these homies. Because you know when you meet a toy dude, they're gonna end up handing you something. You know, and then you feel like a fucking idiot. You're standing there being like, well, shit, you want dirt? You know? So you're like, oh, good crap, man.
How about a handshake?
Hey, yeah. So absolutely beautiful fucking dudes, man. Both of those guys, absolutely. And what's crazy is like we met up at 11. We ended up chatting it till about like 3 o'clock, and Dre was one that was kind of finally like, yo, it's 2:45, and like I just want to make sure I got him on the highway before the crap time comes, right? And meanwhile, though, like I don't even think we talked much about toys yet, dude. Like even walking around the Sculpey store, like we're talking about different supplies and like what you'd use certain things for. But I don't think like once we actually even necessarily just like got talking about toys, because we didn't have a pile of toys in front of us to talk about. We talked about life and just fucking being a human and that kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then as we're dipping out, fucking Grayskull Toys is like, hey, Crumbs, I hope you don't mind. I've got some stuff here. I want to send over.
Damn.
So, and you know what, dude? This is one of those things as well where it's like I have absolutely gone over to Grayskull Store's Etsy store like a bajillion times. I've looked at his work. I saw you even get like you actually grabbed a piece I'd been eyeing for a long ass time. That X-ray with the fucking moss in there. I was definitely kind of like, when I saw you guys, I'm like, yeah, cool piece. Anyways, but you've seen some of these things and how fucking dope they are, man. Personally, I hadn't seen them yet. The John Wick car,
Oh,
you're in love with, man. Dude, The paint app on that hairline is so fucking tight. The casts on there are so tight. This is one of those times where you're like, yo, the boys are underrated, man. Like once you can see it in hand. So this is gonna be for a giveaway thing as well. Those wheels
Oh,
actually
that's awesome,
work.
dude.
So
Oh,
that's gonna be
fuck
going
yeah,
out
that
into a
is sick.
giveaway.
Nice.
Fuck me, man. That car is chonky. Damn.
Now it's 2 giveaways.
Oh, jeez, yeah. And then, dude, again, back to how it's like you're looking through this box of things. He's like, giveaway. And I know you know this feeling. You're sitting there being like, well, crap, a faker rubber ducky? I love rubber duckies. And it's a faker rubber ducky in there.
What?
So that's going to be a giveaway
Wow.
piece going out in the next little bit.
Never
What else
seen
he's
that.
got in here, man? Fucking. Now, this was crazy to me because, in my opinion, that's almost like a Toys Alive little one, man. There's a scully
Mm,
purple and pink in
mm,
there with that beautiful little
nice.
lotus. Well, well,
Nice.
so that's going to be going out into the world as well.
I like
Did you
that.
want to? Did you want to see what he put in here for you, or do you want to wait and just be pleasantly surprised?
No, absolutely not. Nope.
Okay.
No.
Well, in
No.
that case, I'm gonna wait till you get yours before I
Okay.
show the other, because I don't want to ruin
Okay.
anything at all. But then also, there's a bunch of stickers in here as well. And Grayskull Toys, man, dude, again, underrated. Because in my opinion, I'm going too fast here, but like, okay, right from the header cards, right? We don't focus enough sometimes on how much work actually goes into all the full pieces of these things, man. And I just want to
Mm.
make sure that like, 'cause I haven't seen these. It's just dope being able to like see these guys in hand and be like, the double cast resin skelly. Don't overfeed your new skeleton. Give your skeleton a safe place in your home.
Oh,
Take a
dude.
skeleton for regular walks. Provide a blood sacrifice every other lunar phase cycle. Have patience with them. Immediately correct bad behavior. Keep them cool and dry. Never leave your skeleton in the car. It's like, damn, man.
That's dope,
So,
man.
Grayskull Toys loaded us up with some giveaways in the next little bit. Bunch of stickers here as well. Beautiful
Ooh, a
print
tape.
apps.
That's sick.
Fun fucking. Yeah, the cassette tape.
Yeah.
And then
Hmm.
Beastie Boys? Am I
Oh, dude, what a
crazy?
great sticker. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong
Nice.
on the Beastie Boys there, Grayskull Toys. I'm sorry about that, man. Boom. But yeah, the homie loaded us down with some giveaways for the next little bit. Between
Mm.
these, the Daniel Anthill ones, man, and you know it, dude. It happens so fast. And you know what's fucking hilarious to me, man? Classic Canadian. The guy's like giving this stuff to me saying, sorry, I'm packing you down with stuff, crumbs. And you're kind of like, what? And then on top of that, he's saying, thank you. And you're like, one, shut the fuck up apologizing, handing me a pile of like things that you're like, can you please get this out into the community? And then on top of that, how dare you say thank you for what we've done? We're just two dudes getting stoned drinking coffee, looking at your shit on the internet because no one will listen to us talk about it in real life.
That's true. That's partly true. DT O'Keefe, what's up, my dude? What a box, dude. Thank you, Gray Skull Toys. That's freaking dude, the Skelly little the person guy, the X-ray, that's yeah, man. I'm trying to think if I've seen that before.
You have this in the Moss one. This is oh fuck you then.
In the Moss one? What do you mean?
You have like a okay. Anyway, I can't tell if you're playing stupid with me now or not. But he's got
I
one.
don't have one. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have one of those. We got to be thinking about something else. I don't have one of those.
I'm losing my mind right now.
You are. I don't have one of those.
Okay, well, it's way bigger than I ever expected, and there's a purpley sparkle skull double cast inside of one of those. What would typically be a like peg person, but
Yeah.
it's one of the jumbo peg people. And you know,
Dude, the only other peg
clean.
person that I've seen is
Clean.
through Magoo. That's the only other one I've seen.
Dude, it's so funny. We were sitting there at Tim Hortons, a coffee shop here in the Toronto, yeah. And we're sitting there, and I'm even talking to Dre about the Magoo little peg people, the LM9 little peg people, and even as we're saying that, Grace Calls is nodding his head along, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, and you did it, and he's like, yeah, I've got one in the car. It's like, oh my freaking good, man. Oh, is it Jazz Wiz that ends up having it, man? Maybe he was on showing it off. I don't know. But now
yeah,
I feel like
maybe.
a dork, dude. I totally remember seeing it on our show, and for a moment I thought you were just totally trolling me. I'm
No.
like, what is he talking? I've seen it.
Well, and my head's going like, what do you mean? There's a Moss Man one too? Where the fuck have I been, dude? What's going on here? And then I'm like, wait a minute, are you telling me what was in the box? Like, I haven't seen what's in the box. I don't know. Ah, damn. Well, that's dope, man. Thank you again, Graceful Toys, dude. That John Wick set, man. Dude, that's an all-timer in my book, dude. I fucking love that. It's it's got a lot to do with the movie, but it's just what a cool little set, man. Really well done too.
Good set, good concept, stupidly well done, and again, like Grayskull, homie, like admittedly, man, and this goes for actually any of the guys out there. You don't have to give it away, but carry your stuff with you.
Mm.
Mind-boggling. I like how to put this in the best way. It, me brain slow. Need see.
Right. Gotcha. Well, so you guys don't all live in Toronto then? You said they traveled from about an hour and a half out?
Well, and so that's what's so strange about Toronto, because I know you guys have a very similar way that you lay out your cities and shit, where you have like little townships, counties, all that bullcrap. But you're so close because your population density ends up causing all that area to just become more city, right? So where you
Sure.
guys can kind of hop, and you've got maybe like a little county over or something that you can just kind of hop to. We can
Yeah.
kind of hop to it, but you're going to be driving through a bunch of like marsh and bush on the highway for at least 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour. So even
Mm.
though I'm in Toronto. If you look like on a map, it's so stupid. Like Toronto's got that hard line all around it, right? But all of a sudden, like Scarborough and Etobicoke and Mississauga all have like almost like a dotted line, and Toronto has basically developed transit out to these areas in order to accommodate for the fact that Toronto is a big giant. It's a world class city, and meanwhile, all these little smaller areas need to be able to get there for work and such. And meanwhile, we also do a lot of industrial stuff out in these smaller areas, so we're all in the GTA, is it, we call it the
Mm.
Greater Toronto Area. But even if like what's hilarious is even if they lived in the city, the likelihood of us not like having to take an hour subway or bus to get to one
Mm.
another is few and far between anyways. Like again, I live in
Mm.
Toronto. They were just over in Etobicoke, and I was taking a 48-minute like trip, technically, right? If
Mm.
they lived over downtown section in like the fashion district, like Kerf Lost the one day was even kind of like, oh, I'm making the commute, eh? And in my head, I'm like, I guess it is a commute. I hadn't really thought about that. Like I'm only going 6 or 7 subway stations over, and I am directly in Toronto. But yeah, I'm about to be underground for like 40 minutes until I get to like the place I'm going. So yeah, I'm kind of
Ah,
commuting in a sense.
that's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah. What about Moosonee? Is Moosonee up there by you somewhere?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now we're getting into like weird like reservations and stuff like Moosonee, Moose Factory and stuff like that, right? Kind of. Um, but yeah, dude, geography is like one of my worst subjects. I'm gonna put
I
that out
I
there.
I heard it in a song one time, man. Just want to know where that place is. I knew it was in Canada somewhere.
You know,
Oh
Canada's so
man.
stupid that people will look on a map and basically, if you live in North Bay for the longest time, people will be like, "Oh yeah, I know people over in Thunder Bay. It's close." Eh? And you're like, "Thunder Bay is 18 hours away." For some reason on a map, Thunder Bay, like it's right there. No, massive mini
Greenville
horse in the
Toy says,
car.
yeah, exactly. Massive mini horse to the car. Massive mini horse, dude. I was just looking at some of his pieces today. That's another dude. Yeah, he's got some really cool shit, man. Um,
For the sake of
well,
Crumb's brain, if anybody in the chat is sitting there being like, I have that weird moss green double cast one. Please tell me because now my brain is going fucking insane. Jazz Wizards tell me he got his afterwards and his is blue. Is yours sparkly
mm,
blue? I feel like I can't even quite show off the sparkliness of this. Mr. Ordinary, I kind of
mm.
have a tab of yours here tonight, man. Actually, because Tiddy Bean's not even in the lobby there. I'm double checking my IG messages just to make sure that I haven't left him high and dry and fucked up shit creek. But he might also have the time things a little bit odd. I'm gonna chug along here.
Yeah. I was thinking
Um,
maybe he's off on the times.
Yeah, if you don't mind maybe shooting him a message, and while you're doing that, I'm gonna pull up some tabbies here because
Yep,
I know
yep.
that we're gonna have a whole bunch of tabs to go through tonight anyways. So boom, boom. I don't know if you knew. I only somehow found out today. Resin Blood is a weekly fucking toy show, and I haven't been watching it. What the hell's wrong with me?
Bootleg Overdose Friday night.
Well, how come you know and I don't know? You say it like it's just some thing.
Oh, wow. You know what? I was going to say 3 episodes. They're actually on 6 already.
Episode
You know,
6, posted 5 days ago.
well, for the first couple, man, I want to say that
Marvelous.
it was like a very, I don't want to say like a very, but it was like a kind of like an impromptu,
Well,
like,
that's
hey,
how
we're
they
all
all
going to get
start.
together, yeah, and be making stuff, and then it kind of developed into this,
I love it,
which is cool,
man.
man. It's yeah, so it's midnight Eastern is what it is, so 9 o'clock my time.
Oh, no wonder I keep
It's late.
missing.
Yeah, it's
Well,
late.
oh, look, Strafe 7, one of the Cherry Brothers, right? And then there's
Um,
Scott. Is that Scat's brother?
yeah, you know what? I don't know
And
if
there's
that is or
Hella.
not.
That's what I'm
And you know
saying.
what was
Like,
really cool, man, was freaking Kerfloss was on last week.
yeah, that's what I'm looking at
And
right here.
yeah, and that's and then I posted those bounty buddies afterwards, dude, and that's
Oh,
what
fuck,
kind
those
of
Bounty
jogged
Buddies
my
are good.
yeah, that's what jogged my memory on Kerfloss was I saw him pop up. I'm like, damn, dude, I haven't seen old Jonathan in a little while. But yeah, that was cool, man. I mean, and that's you know what I dig about that show, man. It's like that's artists who are like in the thick of it. You know what I mean? They're out there, they're
Hmm.
painting, they're sculpting, and they're really working on their craft, dude. While you're just kind of like hanging out watching. That's right, Hella was on there too. I
Well,
did see
and
that one.
see, I'm glad that you recognize, dude. How funny is it? I was just thinking to myself, it's like we've been in the scene now long enough that all we need to see is this much of a person's head. We're like, oh, nice, Hell Radical is on the show, right?
Yeah,
Or like right away, just this, boom. You see that shirt and that smile, you're like, that's Strafe. The old hat, like it's just
yeah, absolutely. You see that muckoid on the top right?
the Mockoid on the top.
Yeah,
Yours?
that's mine. I don't
Oh
have it yet, but
no,
that's the
no,
one
but you
that Eddie
sent him to do
painted.
some paint apps.
Yeah, that's the one
Yeah,
that
sharp.
Eddie painted up for me. That's dope, dude. I love that.
Yeah, he did
It
a great
glows.
job there. And I'm
You know,
assuming
it's
that's
a
Ewing here as well, right?
yeah, it's a and that is a it's a blank, but it's glow. So he left a whole bunch of parts on it um unpainted, so it'll glow too. So that's sick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, did he? If it's glow, it almost looks like he hit it with that yellow translucent Wonder vinyl paint that he's got.
Yeah. Something, dude. He sent me pictures of it glowing
Mm,
and it was badass. But yeah, it's
radiant, I
definitely in
bet.
those yellow parts. Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
bet.
Nice.
Oh, poor Tiddy. You message him, and now meanwhile he's sitting in the room there. I've also got that Grayskull toy page pulled up as well because these are what he ended up actually sending one of these guys for that giveaway. These guys are now dropped.
Mm.
They're up in the shop there. And shout out, homie, Dove ended up scooping one of these right off the hop. I know Dove's gonna be on our show coming up soon. And let's be honest, man, in this scene, there's certain people, DT O'Keefe, Dove, you buy a piece, and like, let's be honest, man, somebody's instantly like, oh, oh, ah. So like,
Yeah, so you just said it, man. Last show of the year is going to be Dove from DKE. That'll be a fun show.
I love you to death, but I definitely was in the kitchen the other night being like, you fucking SOB. Look at the calendar. And then after we get that mix up, should be interesting. Yeah, I get it. I've got a big ass fucking mouth and I gotta eat crow sometimes. I get it. It'll be an interesting episode. Thank you very much.
Totally not what I meant, but again, you know what? Hey, next week we got Barbarian Rage. That'll be a fucking fun show, man. Right on the
Well,
verge of that Tag Fest down in LA.
boom.
Yeah.
And I've actually got a tab actually open for that as well. And then and you know what? The reality is too is that like I'm aware like there's people that like I butt heads with. There's other people that I'm more just kind of like the ambrosia salad on the buffet table. They're not looking at it being like, who the fuck brought ambrosia salad here? But they're definitely kind of like, I'm good.
They're like, I don't know. Did you leave that in the sun? Because I don't want to get sick. Nah,
That's kind of it, dude.
it'll be fun, man. And I think we always talk about, dude, like what it takes to really make up like a whole thing, right? Like there's people
Hmm.
doing all sorts of different things. And when it comes down to it, yeah, we're in the same scene, different neighborhood
Hmm.
for sure. But it's the good part about it is that, we deal in the same stuff, man, and it's all based around the same kind of indie toy art scene, which is, is what it's all about, man.
And we're really not all that different. Like, let's be honest right now. If it was you and I and the DKE team with Scott and Janky, and then all of a sudden we pulled in the bootleg overdose, and then we also brought in Yucko. At the end of the day, we're all just gonna be sitting there having a freaking hoot and a holler, anyways, talking about pieces and drooling over pieces. It's gonna be identical. It's just that afterwards, their Dove team is probably gonna go home being like, "Holy fuck, those guys are nuts." And meanwhile, we're gonna be looking over at Resin Blood going, "Man, I gotta sleep. I'd love to, but I gotta sleep."
The other one that I didn't drop on you yet is that me and you are going to be doing his show in January, so get ready for that.
He's a professional. It'll be fun, man.
Absolutely, dude. And you know what? I hope he takes it well. But I was talking to Hurt Toys, and he was like, "Oh, he goes, when's he going to air it? 2026?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna ask him about that just because I think it's funny.
I'm guilty for it too. I'm sitting on, like, I'm sure Feral Foundry, Hobo Toys, fucking Has Been Toys are sitting there every now and then going, "Will it ever? If he does, will it matter?" I'm in that same boat. I'm gonna slide Tiddy Bean in here because he's actually chilling in the waiting room. Isn't that cool, man?
Let's do it.
And I feel bad because we basically went knocking on his door, being like, "It's time, it's time," and then we fucking.
He's like, "Relax, I'm setting up my shit."
He might have been having one of those little meat pies. Every now and then he likes to go over to the little store around the corner from him, get a little pie pastry treat there. I don't think.
Well, that time is probably limited then, if that's what's going on there. What's up, man?
What's going on?
Oh, Hey, check this out, dude. Let's start off with this. You like my new Warcat shirt? That's a Warcat shirt, dude. That's not a Czarface shirt. That's a Warcat shirt.
That's a Warcat #4 shirt. That's sick.
It, man.
I've got a carded Warcat here. Oh no, I don't. I packed it up. Fuck.
It
was Czarface. That would have been so cool because it's that same like lime green. I would have been like, "Here's one I prepared earlier."
Hey, we got time. If you want to go ahead and unpack it, go ahead, man. We got time.
Fuck that, man. Like, I've got like boxes down here. I've got like maybe 6 boxes, all full of reaction figures. Which was cool to sort of see all the stuff that I bought and kind of cull very few pieces. But it's also been very cool to kind of highlight all the bootleg stuff because I have reaction figures fucking up there and all like on the shelf. So taking them away, it's just kind of like, ooh, get to highlight the homies a bit more for the show. So that worked out really well.
You do have
what's going on?
Nothing, man. We're here to drool over your collection. I need to know about your shirt too. What is going on with that, man? It's so like poignant.
This one, it's just a Deus Ex Machina top.
Looking fresh, man. Nice little jumper.
Thanks, man. I found it at the bottom of my drawers when I was cleaning out clothes and that sort of stuff.
There you go.
Kind of like, oh damn! What did I still
remember this one?
Buried at the bottom. So good.
Dude, so you're in the middle of you made an announcement a while ago. You're in the middle of moving, right? Or you're getting ready to move soon?
Yeah.
How overwhelming, like just turning around and looking at that stuff to be like, I got to move all this shit, and then I got to pack it up, and then I got to unpack it and set it back up. I mean, just that alone, dude, that's a task, man. That's no like weekend deal.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. So that's why I kind of like once we'd pretty much gotten back from Thailand, I was just like, I've got to start doing something, not like packing every single piece up, but I was like, I've got to start putting things aside that I'd sell and make room for. Because like even if we were to sort of stay here, I just have like stacks. Like how the actual room looks now is pretty much how it looks. There's just less stuff on the shelves. So there'd have to be like a major overhaul to kind of actually like store this stuff here if we were here sort of long term. So there was always going to be a point where I'm like, I've got to fucking get this organized, or I've got to just put stuff in storage that I don't really want out, but I still want to keep. And that did not appeal to me because I was like, what's the point in having all this stuff if you can't just have it like up? Like I've got Asian, I think I've got like a box of pop vinyls stashed away in the garage because no one needs to see those, but I
think everybody does.
Yeah. But yeah, that just didn't appeal to me. So there was always going to be I'd have to like pull the pin at some point and do something. And it also forced me to like actually probably sell some stuff that really is just taking up space and you know, it's not kind of, it was stuff that I might have been into 6 years ago, but not so much now. Like Legos and stuff, I was really big into Legos and still sort of am, but it's just sort of like the bootleg and like action figures just completely took over, and I'm completely fine with that as well. I might hang on to a couple of Lego sets, but it's just sort of not really where it's at with me now. So and you know, they sell reasonably okay. I chucked a couple on eBay, and I think I'm a dumbass because I probably should have, like, I don't use eBay at all for like selling shit. So it's been a good learning curve. But yeah, I'm also a little bit excited about getting into the new space because the new room that I'll sort of have this stuff in is a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna have to be a bit more creative around how we actually display it. So and I've already just like started thinking, like, how do we get those cabinets that you've got? How do we just get like a wall of that shit? Like, where am I going to kind of put what? So I want to display the bootleg stuff way more than sort of, well, just much better, because I've just got them like all on a shelf there and it's cool. But I was going to get like the acrylic, like stacking sort of shelves. And I was like,
yes,
if they sort of fall, everything falls. And I just was also really lazy and was too busy making toys to kind of come in here and sort of want to invest the time in that.
Well, check this out. I have a bunch of those and I'm going to fucking send them to you because I don't use them anymore. And there's different ways to set them up that I'll tell you that you can get it so they don't fall. I'm not bullshitting you, bro. I have like 10 of those things with your name on them. They're coming your way. So I don't know if you want them now or later, but I think we gave away a couple sets of them on the show at one time. And then I found 2 extras and I'm like, did I double order this from Amazon? Which I totally did and didn't fucking realize it, right? But anyways, man, they're great for displays. I mean, 3.75s are a little bit tough, but if you got, solid pieces that, like shit like this, it's very, very cool to put over there. Yeah,
fucking hate like all like the HH toys, all the minis, like Luke Welch sculpts, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and like it's pretty cool. Like, so where we are now, our neighbor over the back is a cabinet maker, and they're awesome neighbors. We're going to miss them a lot, but it'd be great to kind of pull him into the space and be like, what would you do? Like, what's the kind of, this is sort of what I want to put up, or this is what I want to display here. So I'm a little bit excited about being able to kind of create that space, and hopefully if the space allows it, I want to have like my painting station in there as well. So when I'm painting and when I'm doing that stuff, I can actually look around, because I sit, it's basically a kitchen bench, a trestle table against a kitchen bench, and I just sort of sit and paint, which is great for light. And, I've set it up my space, but I do often like get up and then walk in here and like look around and try and sort of get an idea or colors, or just fucking just tune out. So it'd be really nice to sit at the table and kind of have all this stuff around me whilst doing that kind of clean inside work. I don't want any of this stuff in the garage where I'm like sanding and that sort of shit. So
for sure.
But it's been sorry.
Those particulates, man. They get on.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then UV lights and shit like that.
Yeah, like that sort of shit. So so that'd be cool. If we can kind of get it all into one space. There might have to be a bit of storage happening in other places, but that's cool. And then the next task is to basically get like a portable studio thing put in the backyard or the courtyard, which is at the new place. So, and that'll be like my new garage. So that's where everything grinds to a halt, and that's where the casting and the dremeling and all that sort of stuff would happen. So I've been trying to stockpile. I put a photo on Patreon a week or two ago, and it was just like a basket of just things that I've already cast up. So once we get in, I can just sit down and just pull toys out and just paint them rather than cast new shit. So
there you go.
There'll be a real lag of like new designs and new figures and that kind of thing. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, I think, at this point, because dude, not to say that I was running out of ideas, but it was definitely getting a lot harder to be kind of like, I want to do this piece, or the Patreon sort of flow really took over a lot of the creative stuff. So
for sure,
it's been nice to just sort of really pull it back and just kind of chill out. And I've had one project that I've been working on, which is a pretty big and important project. I can't talk about it, but it's not. It's a commission, so I can but it's a
Nice.
really, really exciting one, and I'm pretty sort of pumped about that. So that's been nice to sort of tide me over, and instead of focusing on 5, 6 different sort of projects or what's coming up, it was just like zoom into one project, and it's something that I would want to put all my energy. I wouldn't want to kind of have to be juggling things while I'm doing this commission. So yeah, timing has been either like terrible or really, really good, and just trying to take advantage of it and just really trying to see it all from a sort of positive, because once I start to see the negative, I can't quite get out of it sometimes. But it's exciting. It's the only way I would have like stopped or taken a break, is to be forced into it. I just would have kept going until I burnt out, and then I just probably would disappear. So it's been really good to be forced into that, which sounds weird. And it was pretty traumatic when you find out you kind of like, we've got to move, and it is just that overwhelm of like, fuck.
Yeah.
So much stuff.
So much stuff, dude.
But
I'm picturing almost losing a game file for a character you've been farming with for like years, and then somebody just being like, no, the PC died. There's no recovering your little Diablo man. He's dead now. All that gold and treasure is gone. Your World of Warcraft account ain't coming back. Say gone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so but it's really cool. Like, we're also really fortunate where we're moving into is my wife's house. She's had that as a rental, so we're really lucky that we can just, okay, we're just gonna move in there rather than like, fuck.
Drops 2 on us there. I've got a wife and we're moving into her house. I've got a wife and a house. Suck it, toy boys.
So that's so we're really lucky in that sense. So I can't stand here and be like, oh, fucking woe is me. It's just like, we're really lucky, because fuck trying to find a rental, and fuck trying to like find a rental that's got to have space for this and a noisy resin making shit, pressure pots, air compressors. So it's cool. So, but yeah, just, it's pretty overwhelming, but also just cool, because I can highlight some of this cool shit. And so I've been fucking around trying to see if the lights is going to work, but I've pretty much been walking around the past 3 days just picking things off the shelf and being like, yeah, and the pile is just like growing and growing, and it's pretty much, it's like everything. Because then you come in here and I'm like, grail, like there's grails that I don't own, grails that I cannot get my hands on, or just kind of can't afford it, which is the main thing, or just like always miss them. So Bog Squad is a great example of drops either miss completely, or I see them and I'm like, I'm gonna do it, and then I get there and I'm like, I cannot spend that much money right now. I fucking like, it's like the unattainable thing as well, like also kind of like the tease. It's kind of like, oh, so it's this game that I play obviously with myself, because Bog Squad, I don't fuck, they're just going to sell out anyway.
and dude, I 100%, dude, and I'm the exact same way. You know what I did? So I bit the bullet one time, and I'm like, I'm going to buy this Bog Squad. You know what it was? It was that big vinyl piece. You remember that came out? I was going to say like last year. Brother, I sold that before I even got it. Somebody hit me up and like, did you get one? I'm like, I will reroute this fucker right now if you want to pay me for it. And they did. I never even saw it. I never even had it in hand. So like, technically I bought one. I don't have one, but
that was I think that was maybe the most reasonably kind of priced one that I'd seen. It was obviously because it was a vinyl, and it wasn't sort of, little bog dwellers. But yeah, I think I had that in my cart as well, and I think I could afford it at the time, but I was just kind of like, but I actually want the real bog dweller, like, when they just do the crazy pause. And
dude,
I bailed. But then as soon as I sort of bailed, and I don't even know if I went back and looked, but it was instant regret of like, it was in my hand, I had it, and I just went and retro band is another good example of that for me. And I don't think it's so much the fact that I don't think price is necessarily too much of an issue. It's just when he drops, I always miss it. It's like Has No Talent. I have to be like scrolling on my phone at 2 a.m. to stumble across a Has No Talent.
Yeah.
It always drops outside my thing. So I do have a retro band, which is pretty cool. I was pretty stoked to get it, and but definitely like those horror heads and his like little mini dude. Well, just like always
those are dope.
So they're grails that are just kind of, and there's like probably like 500 more that I can't think of, but they're they're ones that are still making consistently doing drops, and I still keep seeing them. I still keep missing them, or I still keep going, oh, not today. So, yeah, but we'll see if we can get this.
So let's start with the collection question, man.
Mhm.
How do you have your stuff organized? Is it just kind of random and it's just kind of set up everywhere? Do you have your grails in a specific piece or in a specific place?
Nah, so they're pretty much all loose 3.75s are just kind of on a shelf right here. And you got like your minis and your HH. Am I saying that right? Is it HH Toys, or with the little Cthulhu dudes and
oh yeah.
I would say HH,
Yeah.
And then there's like a massive squad of Healy like assassins and just over. This is like a Healy made sort of section. With a bunch of raiders, mostly raiders and stuff. So has no talent. So a lot of them, when I kind of realized when I was just walking around, I realized this about half an hour ago. I don't have that many like carded 3.75 figures. But I've got heaps of loose 3.75s and sort of minis and that kind of thing. So because I need to show off a carded one, and I'm like, I don't have that many. And I think that also comes down to like display. I always knew that it was never going to be that many places to display the carded ones. So I would always just kind of like, oh no, maybe not. But I definitely bought a couple at the Mint on Card show, which was cool. Actually.
Nice.
So I got the One Trick Ponies, Dead on Arrival.
Oh, sick.
Crumpled up. And then I got the Mellow Toys Ajax Death, which is really cool. So
nice.
But yeah, and then like over on the other side of the room, there's like a bunch of Safubi. That's like my little Safubi sort of shelf or vinyl shelf or whatever. And then there's another little shelf. These are mostly, I think, not reaction, Super 7 like minis. There's a couple of tussles in there. But that's production sort of stuff. But yeah, all the bootleg loose 3.75s are just kind of on a flat shelf. They don't really, there's not a whole lot of thought going into who's standing next to who or colors, or mainly just having like all Heelys sort of together. And then I've got like a couple of my ones like littered in there as well, which is just kind of, again, don't really have anywhere else to put them. And I don't know, they're just hanging out with all their other homies that are just other little bootleg dudes and shit like that. So I guess there is a little bit of like, hey, like, yeah, a little bit of thought gone into it, but I don't sort of come in and alternate. I know Crumbs, you sometimes sort of go in and like change your dudes around to be in a different sort of layout or sort of spots. So not something I sort of get up to too much.
Well, sorry, man. Admittedly, I've got so many things I just want to like poke your brain about, because like admittedly, you've said you've already packed up your Super 7 stuff. How many Super 7 figures would you say you have? Do you have like almost every like one of the Universal Horror, the Worst? Like, how do you go about picking those even?
Yeah, I'm not a completionist, which is good. I'll certain figures will resonate with me, and I'll just be like, yeah, I want two of those ones. So a good example. By the way, reaction figures are an absolute motherfucker, especially when they're on cards like this, to try and like pack and store. I've got like these ones on these crazy cards. I got like the Ghost Papa, what's his name? Papa Nahil, like on the cross cards. I have no idea how I'm gonna like pack and store this shit, but like when these came out, these are the glow in the dark, cool card, worst ones.
So gorgeous.
Yeah, those are sick, man.
And I think they may be released 4 or 5, and I bought 3 of them. It was that kind of like, why didn't I just get the other 2? And I was like, because I just don't need it and can probably get some other toys. So but I've got mostly Universal Monsters, The Worst, Halloween, like Freddy, Jason, all those kind of ones, like kind of typical movie monsters. They're all basically horror. Got a bunch of ghost ones as well. Definitely The Worst is probably the most represented, and Universal Horror, like a couple of boxed Universal Horror, but they're all kind of from different waves. Like I don't think I've got like, I actually got a really cool, here they are. I didn't actually realize I bought this from like this was early on when I was getting into maybe more collecting than whatever, but I bought this, like, 5 the worst figures from a dude in like a town not too far from like where I sort of grew up. And so
I
I've
love
got a
how
cool
we've gotten you to unpack your stuff.
punched as well, and you can't really see the colors too much. It took me like 2 or 3 years to realize that they're like the original, like the Kenner Star Wars colors. So he's got like the gas phantoms in like the Greedo green. So that's in like the Yoda, Dead Stars, and like the can't really see it. I think it's like Nine Nub or someone's in sort of uniform.
Damn.
Snakes like the Imperial uniform. It's even got like the little colored, fucking puff drop things I have on there.
What a nice touch, man.
like,
and I know you
yeah.
love Star Wars.
Yeah, and I was like, holy shit, that's so fucking cool. I think I'm missing maybe one. I don't actually know who it is, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably the hardest one to find. But that was really cool to kind of realize that you have that, and like you don't just sort of have one and be like, oh, cool, it looks like an Imperial. It's like, holy shit, it's like X-wing pilot. And I'm like, holy shit, that's like Yoda's colors, and I'm like, oh, this is no coincidence, guys.
Yeah.
So
you know what's a bummer, man? I remember seeing all those things, dude, on the shelf at Super 7 in San Francisco. And I, for whatever reason, man, I just wasn't into them at the time, dude. And now it's like, how stupid was that? Just to see those and be like, nah, I'm good. It's dumb, dude. Those are great, dude. I love those.
Yeah, so I guess, like that's probably a bit, these are probably a little bit of a grail thing. Like I don't think I'd sell these probably ever, just because they're pretty cool, and they're in pretty good condition. One was a bit fucked up on the corner, which is a bit annoying. But in terms of sort of like manufactured like grails, that's a to me like a pretty cool kind of thing to have. And I also just love the worst. Like it's basically what launched me right into like Super 7 stuff, and which in turn probably just pushed me into like making bootleg toys and started changing your perspective on like these really sort of basic, simple toys, which I thought used to look terrible. I remember seeing reaction figures like 10, 12 years ago and just kind of being like, I don't get it, man. I just do not get this shit. And then I think and it was probably more when they had like the Aliens figures where the cards would just have a screenshot from the movie and you're kind of like, I'm just not getting it. Like someone gets it, I'm happy for them, but this shit's never going to last. And then once they started doing, like these crazy cards, I was like, oh shit, I see it now. Like I see the character in there and I see that shit, and it just completely flipped everything, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's dope.
If you are looking to flip stuff, I know that I think you have the Funko Batman Robber Heath Ledger. It goes for like 600 in box on eBay if you're still sitting on that guy.
That is sitting on my desk at work. I've got like 4 Funko figures that must have been just on my desk from years ago. And I remember like seeing, I wasn't sure if that was true. And I remember seeing it and be like, I don't need to know that I've got this thing that's been battered around in my like work drawer and just sitting there, and it's in all right condition, but there's not much. But just knowing that I had it in the box once and didn't realize or didn't know that it was going to be valuable, because there was a couple that I've got like a Batgirl metallic one, which is supposed to be really valuable. And so there was some sort of obvious ones I could pick up that this was going to be a valuable one. It was just that, dang. But,
sometimes it's the ones I'm not expecting that end up being worth something, man. And I think we've talked about that in general. Like most of us don't buy commercial toys with the intent to flip, but when you do all of a sudden go online one day and you're like, well, I'm curious. It's odd how sometimes you'll like have a list in your brain of like, I bet this will be, I bet this will be, I bet this will be. Those are all not. And then all of a sudden some random stupid one will just be like worth a whole bunch that you're like, I saw that so many times and didn't grab it because it's stupid.
Yeah.
You know what, man? I'm actually going through a bunch of my Super 7 reaction figures right now. Now, at one point, I had these things all like cased up, right, in the figure shield cases and everything. And they took up a ton of room. And I did that exact same thing that you're talking about, Crumbs. I'd go on there and I'd start looking them up recently, like, oh, how much these things are worth? Because at the time, I thought, hey, they're unpunched. They came right from Super 7. They sold out. They're done. And then you look at them and you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, it's less than what I bought it for. And so now I was actually just talking to Pamro Toys today, and we were talking about figure, kind of combinations and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do with these things, man. I mean, at some point I might try to make something, that kind of sounds like what you did too, Sam, was start making stuff off the reaction stuff that you were collecting. But it's just weird, man, how like the perception is that they're going to be worth something. And then, you know, here it is like 3 years later now. And you're like, man, these things aren't worth shit, dude. What am I going to do with them now? You know, like, is it worth keeping them all carded up and taking up a ton of room? Because a carded piece, that is the main problem with carded pieces, dude. They take up so much fucking room. Yeah. You know, what are you going to do? You only got so many walls, you know?
Yeah, and they fucking bend, like, you know, if you have them on a certain thing, and they'll just kind of like over time. And I noticed, this is probably more with Legos, but like even like the sets that I had in their boxes up on the shelves, the tape, obviously hot air rises, so the tape has slowly kind of slid off, and I was like, fuck, that's probably going to like affect things. And so, but yeah, storing, yeah, especially carded figures. And then there's always that dilemma when, you know, yeah, like you get it from Super 7 and they're unpunched, and you're like, do I care that much about this piece? Is that fucking punch gonna like make or break this, whether people like sort of want it if I was to like flip it or something? Or is it gonna be like, is this pristine? And so I've actually been thinking about that, and all the ones that I've got unpunched, I'm just gonna fucking punch them and then like just put like hook up, I think, and just go for it. I'm like, there's no way to like do this in a logical and efficient, like space saving way. Yeah, unless building just rails of like shelves or something. But even then, seems like a lot of work. But I think just getting like little sticky hooks is probably what I'm going to go with, and measure up the wall and try and work out how many are there. But yeah, at this point, I'm like, what doesn't get sort of put on eBay or sold in the move, I'm probably going to keep for a long time. So I'm just going to punch the cards and store them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a real sort of pain. But they're also like the cool shit, because they're like, they're fully packaged. They're the card, they got the bubble, they got the fucking artwork, they got all the shit on the back. Like, they're sick. Like, why? I want more, but like, what the fuck do you do? How do you do this? Like, yeah. Anyway, that's
dude, that's exactly what turned me on to the Motu series. In that was the card art, and then the back. I mean, they're dope, dude. They're dope. Yeah. You know what's funny? I was telling Pamro, dude, it was so bizarre, dude. I was actually in Super 7 in San Francisco. Their license had already expired on Motu. And the dude came in, and literally while I'm standing there looking through them, he has a box and he's just taking them all off the fucking pegs. And he's like, nah, these are ours. Like, see you later. And that was that. And that was the last time I ever saw him on the show. So
holy shit.
Yeah, it's weird. Same thing happened with their Star Wars stuff when they used to do Star Wars stuff back in the day. But they were always trying to push the limit on how long they could actually keep that for.
Yeah, okay. What about that shit? Do they have to send it back to fucking Star Wars, or they have to send it back to He-Man, or do they just put it aside and be like, yeah, we're just going to put this in storage now, and then
right? And I think that's what happens, man. Is that like they take them, and I don't know what goes on with them, but I do know this. I do know that the Super 7 warehouse for San Francisco is up in Napa, and the dude who runs the warehouse on there also has an eBay account. So if you find an eBay account with a ton of fucking figures on them, that's the warehouse dude from Super 7. So that's the, you know, back stock or stuff that didn't make it to the store. You know, and they're always there. If you look on their page, you're always finding these warehouse finds. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where the warehouse finds come from. Yeah.
So what's fun is with commercial products like that with a license, sometimes it gets warehoused. When I used to work at a bookstore, we realized it was actually cheaper to write it off as destroyed than to pay the shipping to send it over to like the publisher or anything.
Wow.
So what you would actually do is pull off all the things from the shelf, sit in the back room, rip the front covers off of them, and then you'd basically just send them back like bubble lopes full of all the front covers going, these are all the books that were destroyed. We wrote it into our system as destroyed, but it was just you in the back destroying them.
Wow.
Because it's cheaper to just be like, to just write off for the destroy than it is to actually... So I'm sure even in those cases, like when we look at something like the ETs buried in the fucking desert, right? Sometimes it's just that. Also, it's like, I'm not paying to store those. Nobody's ever going to get them. Dump them. Yeah. Dispose of. Tiddy, man, I'm curious because admittedly, I know you haven't been collecting indie toys super, super long. What would you say if you had to name even like 2 makers from the start of making to like now? What has changed in who you're collecting and who you're kind of watching? What accounts you're looking at? What are probably like the biggest differences between your starting of collecting in indie bootlegs to now?
It's a really good question. Probably like vinyl stuff. That's something that I did not own a single thing of. Like I didn't own any bootlegs before I probably started making toys, but I hadn't even really like considered vinyl as something that I'd be kind of like or that would resonate with me or anything like that. And it's definitely like, it was kind of cool because there'd be sort of pieces that were like, you know, Healy made vinyls. I've got 1, 2, 3, I got 4. I've got a couple of shamans and a couple of like trooper dudes sort of thing, like Ballon with like the 4 arms. So it's definitely kind of like been like a steady kind of interest, and it's something, and I think it's really interesting in the past like 6 months is people doing vinyls like, you know, Barbarian Rage, Resin Blood, and I got a couple of those. I can never remember the name, but you know, the almonds, and you know, the little bug dudes, and then what's
number 2 combo? Yeah,
that one.
Toronto boys. Sorry.
Yeah. So I got a couple of glow ones the other night. It's probably going to be like the last. I was like, oh, we're moving, and I don't need to like add more shit to the collection. I need to kind of, but I was like, no, I'm going for it because I saw those marbled ones that did the black and white ones, and I was gutted that I was like, that was so cool. Completely missed it. And but I think it took me like a day or two to like watch and look at their videos and look at the things and be like, holy shit, this is a fucking like action figure. Safubi and like, you know, Resin Bloods and Barbarian Rages, I kind of viewed them, I think because I don't have them in hand, but I just sort of thought they were maybe a little bit bigger, but the almonds dudes, but they're probably like about the same. It's more probably just about how I'm sort of viewing them on a screen. But so I think that's probably been
shoulders. I think the sculpts, I think Resin Blood and Barbarian Rage, their pieces are maybe a little bit wider, but you're on the right track. Yeah, it's almost like a 5 or a 6 inch action figure. And admittedly, those black and white ones, dude, like, and I know you've had this happen before too, because the toy scene is just fucking weird. Pocket Salsa reached out to me being like, yo, that number 2 combo is black and white ones. I was like, yeah, they're Toronto boys. I'll reach out at some point and grab one. And then out of fucking nowhere, I got a package from them, and I'm like, hey, I just got this in. They're like, yeah, it was your buddy Bucket Salsa. And you're just kind of like, dude, what the fuck, homie? Like, and he's like, yeah, I just saw it. Knew you probably wouldn't be able to miss the opportunity. And you're just like, okay. And I can attest, man, they are a beautiful figure. Absolutely. I hope they end up being really stoked at the glow-in-the-dark ones. Are they the blue ones that just dropped? Those, like, teal ones?
Yeah. The ones that were on, Sunday or Monday or whenever it was. I thought it was going to be at 2 in the morning, and then I got my times wrong and it was ending up at 3, so I was on there at 2, like refreshing, and then realized, then checked the time again and went, oh fuck, and sort of went back to sleep. Didn't go to sleep, just put my head back down and was just like waited pretty much till 3. And then
I've done that so many times.
Done. So
start refreshing the page, you're like, what's wrong with these people? They said it was going to be now.
Like, even if I'm like, when I'm doing a drop and I'm like 2 minutes overtime, I'm just like sweating and that kind of thing. And then like when you're like refreshing, you're like, dude, it's fucking 15:15. Like, what are they doing? And then I'll be like, wait, did they say 2 or 3? And then I'll look it up and I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah. The worst is there was a company in Tokyo that dropped a vinyl, but they were dropping it with My Plastic Heart. And admittedly, like, they're saying it's going to drop at like 8 p.m. or whatever. And all of a sudden your brain at 8 p.m. is dawning on you like, fuck, 8 p.m. Tokyo time? 8 p.m. My Plastic Heart time over in the West Coast, like, who at 8 p.m. So something that's like you're kind of like dozing off for a bit. 1 a.m. you're waking up being like, is it time? No, okay. You wake up in the morning. And was it time yet? No.
Yeah.
Fuck.
There's definitely been a couple. I think it was probably more like European ones, when they'll sort of give you the time and then it'll have like the abbreviation of like the time zone. And I'm like, it takes me like 5 minutes to work out what that abbreviation is and what time zone, what country they're in, because it'll just kind of be like, yeah, here. And I'm like, what is CZA? What? Where are countries there? Is that Czech? Is that Czech Republic? There might actually be like a Panro one or something. But yeah, luckily over time you get used to like what EST is, what GMT is, all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
So,
Till daylight savings swings around and Arizona is like, oh yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah,
man. Or you get other countries where you try to figure it out, and then I'll just go, what time is it in fill in the blank right now? And then you look on the map and you're like, motherfucker, these guys have like 3 time zones too. Like, I give up. Fuck it, man. It's somewhere between here and there. Who knows? I did want to show you one thing though, dude, because you brought up Barbarian Rage and Resin Blood, the size of their pieces, right? So here is the Barbarian Rage. That would be closer to like 6 inches, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you have the Speed Skull and the speed
Yeah,
goes way
wow.
down there, dude. It's a much smaller piece. And when I first saw this one online, I was like, oh man, I thought it was more this size, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to say half the size, but it's definitely smaller. This would be more on par with not as thick, but like Healy Made's vinyls, right? It's that size. This one is definitely more along the 5.5 size, but yeah, dude, like you said, articulated vinyl action figures, dude. I think that is, I fucking love that concept, dude. I love that, especially with everything that, we won't even get into it, man. But just kind of like the longevity of resin and how you make that last, dude. I've been hearing a couple different things here and there, which is, I would say some of it's definitely concerning, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Baby
Yeah.
Wotu is basically like saying something that we all can probably agree with. Off topic, don't you hate when big companies can't be bothered to make glow items actually glow worth a dang? Funko is the
Mm.
worst, but smaller biz can get it on spot on. Big biz can't afford it. Or can afford it. I would agree with that. And admittedly, man, like what's
100%.
tripping to me is like certain people even have glows they go to. Like Glowman Dan keeps his glow powder to himself of where he, I think, grabs that. Some people use like the glowworm stuff. And then counter to that, what's crazy to me is I've got one swamp thing from the Kenner times that if I turn off all my lights, even when I'm going to bed, every damn night he's looking there just psh, and you're like, why the fuck did the Kenner boys do that back in the day? Like there really wasn't a reason that the factory would end up making that toy glow like that. Glow powders are hard, man, and they do get expensive. And admittedly, I would imagine that with like ratios and stuff, once you get to like a production level, and maybe Tiddy could attest to that more because you're working with this stuff way more. But I would imagine getting like the levels just right, and then unfortunately you outsource somewhere, right? So suddenly like you're sending off a super glowing figure, it's coming back from Hong Kong, and you're like, oh, that's the glow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is. It's really hard. Like, and you're right. Like ratios and like resins that you're using it with, how much it's going to sink, what colors, like what's it going to do to the. You want something to be red, and you put some glow powder in, it bleaches it because the powder's obviously going to make it a bit lighter. So then you kind of like it's awesome when you kind of get it and you kind of have that design that looks really good, but there is a novelty kind of side to it because of like you put too much glow powder in, it starts to get a bit more rubbery and bendy and yeah, it kind of limits. Like I always trip myself up because I'll like make a glow figure and I'll be like, cool, I'll just like do a black wash on it. And then I'm like, oh, I'll just put a couple of paint details on it. And then next minute, like 50% of it's painted. And I'm like, but it was supposed to be glow. And I did that. What happened with the Scrap Lord ones? Like, I think I cast them to all glow in the dark and the glow just wasn't super strong. So I think that's when I just started like, went, fuck it. And just like packed on the paint and, but yeah. And I think cause I'm like, yeah, it looks cool. But like Bosks came up pretty cool. But that was just but it was really kind of hard to feel like you could get a design where they could glow in the dark. You could sort of do minimal paint work or, sort of wash work, but everything would still like come through. So they're probably my like most happiest ones recently that just sort of, you don't need to put too much paint. The glow can come through, but there's definitely been a couple, like, let's show you this one.
And admittedly, man, one of the paint dudes, I think it was like last year, they told me they were using a glow paint, like just a clear translucent glow in the dark paint. And I kept on kind of like humming and hawing, just mixing my own glow powders. And I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot because the amount of washes that you can do with the glow paint. And then on top of that, for whatever reason, if you start mixing certain paint colors with the glow, it doesn't just do a green glow anymore. So like fluorescent pink and the glow paint actually ends up turning like an orange glow in the dark. Sky blue, you end up getting that like nice rich purple glow in the dark, and all you're doing is mixing like a standard phosphorescent green glow in the dark with your paints, and it's causing it to almost glow through those paints. So it's definitely it's been nice if you're painting on a glow in the dark figure and you're worried that you're going to cover an area. It's kind of nice to just add like a little drop or two of the glow in the dark paint, and then you're like, okay, well, whatever I'm painting now is still going to be phosphorescent then.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So this was one I did, the psychedelic drops. When was that?
God damn, that's sex.
So I'll try and see if I can get it a little bit.
Those
so real
gradients, man. It's like a funfetti.
Yeah, it was real kind of like ice cream. Actually, I had an ice cream the other day, like Skittles gelato kind of thing, and it looked exactly like that, which was pretty funny. I didn't realize till now. But this one, I think it glows in the dark, but it was that thing of like doing a triple pour, getting like the glow powder, the pigment ratio, but you're mixing like 3 cups, and in each cup it was like 5 or 10 grams of resin. So it was like so much more room for error to like, you know, over pigment or over like glow powder, but it was really, really tricky. So I think I had to pull this guy at the last minute just because he just came out too soft. But also it was kind of like, he looks fucking cool, and he's just going to go on the shelf and he'll just sort of stay there. But yeah, there's a real softness to him that just doesn't feel great. And I think over time, whether it's just like the resin starts to dry out or something, I feel like they eventually firm up, but it maybe takes like 2 years or something like that of just it just sitting there and just drying slowly, fucking dehydrating. So but yeah, that's glow powder. That usually kind of puts me off. Once I kind of start to get soft pieces, I'm like, fuck the glow powder for a bit. And I'm talking about soft pieces like doing a smooth on 60D. So when you're chucking it in like a 326, a clear one, this isn't glow in the dark, but you know, you don't get that softness issue so much, but you also get, because it's a thinner resin, the glow powder sinks to the bottom a lot quicker. So you kind of get that like build up at the bottom of your molds. Whereas a 60D, it cures and it's more viscous. So then your glow powder's not sinking, it's kind of curing. And while the glow powder does sink at some point, but it's sort of, by the time it's sunk to the bottom, it should have cured and you should have a more consistent cast. But yeah, and that's my experience anyway. I'm not saying that that's
a little chemistry lesson going on now.
Took me a long time to work that shit out, and even like with the mica powders and the glitters and that sort of thing, just the densities of like the additives that you're putting in, I just for a good 2 years just was not taking that shit into consideration. It was just like, there's something else going on with these casts. It's just like one resin's just way heavier because the glow powder or the powder's in there, and it's just sinking straight to the bottom where you're so, but that also, you know, you take advantage of that if you want like these gushing kind of like marbles and stuff. If you want something to kind of bust through a color, make that particular resin a bit heavier, so then you kind of get a really cool collision of colors rather than like levels kind of thing. So like this dude's back's pretty cool. That kind of like busting through and real kind of, oh, that's my face.
Yeah, sorry, dude. Pearlescent though, dude, that's really sharp.
Yeah, he came up pretty cool. I showed this dude off the other day. I was gonna paint him up, but I also don't want to balls up. I don't actually know where I want to paint him, like definitely around the eyes, I think, but I was kind of also like, I think I kind of like him as is. So I just gave him a cape and was like, all right, we'll come back in maybe a couple of months and see how I feel about you then. Which is,
I do like the cape on there, man.
Oh, dude, I was just gonna say I love the cape, dude.
Yeah. Really. So I've been doing these
nice.
Can't show the figure, but I can show the cape. A cape. So I started making these. So that's a vinyl sticker kind of stuff on the outside, and then silk on the inside. So it's like silk lining of a cape, which was just ridiculously easy to do because the vinyl's an adhesive that you peel off. And when you're laid on fabric, you're obviously not catching, because the air's like passing through the fabric, you're not actually catching bubbles as you would sticking two pieces together. But that's the big thing I learned recently. Thanks to Dark Rainbow Toys as well. If he's on here or if he's watching or if he's rewatching, he's a cape master. So he gave me some tips. But yeah, trying to stick 2 pieces of vinyl together and roll it and get it completely flat with no bubbles is fucking really hard. I tried it once and I was like, nah, I'm just going to use
That's a great idea, man. I never thought about that. But yeah, all the air would get through there. Dude, we took the long way around Crumb's question. I don't even know if we addressed it yet. He was talking about, who are you collecting? I think we started talking about the worst. That was more commercial stuff. What about in the scene directly, man? Who is it that you're either collecting or excited when they have a drop? I know there's some back there.
Don't make me choose. I look like a fucking asshole because there's so many, and I am so diplomatic to absolute fault. So, definitely. I was really excited to, and this is a grail. I'll just start it off. This was probably the most exciting one to sort of have. I'll take it out to get the.
Oh fuck yeah! Of course, that's starting off with a grail. That is a beast of a piece, man. That's a grail for the scene.
Yeah, this was sort of like really exciting to have, something that I've wanted for a really long time. So a little bit of dust on him.
How dare you?
But yeah, and I think the only way that I was able to actually get this was to like be involved in having a toy show, to invite him to this thing over, because again, probably someone, and I don't think it's so much the time zone thing. I think when he does a drop on his feed, it's just gone straight away. Especially if it's like showpieces or just kind of anything. So sorry, showpieces and stuff, like more say to this scale where he's got that kind of He-Man-ish type scale. And I know B showed off Goro last week. That I like said to Lab Monkey when I invited him to the show, I was like, yeah, cool, you know, we'll have you on a plinth and stuff, so you know you don't need a card. But he's like, yeah, I'll think of something to make it. I was like, a Goro would be fucking awesome. And then I just really wanted a Goro. I should have just said to him, dude, can you make me one and I'll just buy it and then send another piece over for the show. But then when he started showing me like photos of what he'd made, I was just like, damn, I don't need no Goro. Like this was sick. So he sent this over for the Mint on Card show, and he was right onto it. Like when I sort of invited him, he was straight into it. And I guess what really blew me away, and probably that he didn't pitch the piece to me, like he didn't like sort of sell it to me, but just like the amount of thought that sort of went into him like making the piece just like completely affirmed that I am 100% getting that, because this isn't just a sort of dude that was like, oh, I've got some old molds, yeah, I'll throw something together. Like he went into like full project mode and research mode around cicadas. So I should remember the name of this. There was Mr. Cicada Pharaoh edition, I want to say. And yeah, and he just kind of like sent me all these messages around all the research he'd done around sort of cicadas and, you know, like what sort of beings they are and what they kind of do and how they function. And it was just kind of like, dude, like I do sort of like things for shows and I'll just sort of like, you know, have that idea and just sort of put it out. But rarely do I kind of like research a lot. It's more like digging my own sort of brain for ideas and fucking what I think's funny or cool, but rarely do I actually like go in and research about, you know, a figure. There's just like, I think once I get to that point, it'd stop being a little bit fun. Like the fun thing for me is like creating the figure and trying to make it sort of work and look cool, but rarely is that research side of it. So it was really cool to see an actual professional fucking dude, like not just and I don't think anyone phoned it in at the show, but not just kind of being like, yeah, I'll send this over to you, just a recast of an old figure. Like this was, I can't remember how many molds. I want to say probably like 19 molds or something like that. So it's got all the arms move, and even the eyes, like they're perfectly like polished round spheres, and I'm sure there might be like a little plug on the other end, but I'm kind of like, did he cast those? And like, he obviously did. Like, this is all him. But
yeah,
those pieces where I kind of like, if I was trying to get that, I'd probably find a product off the shelf and cut something off and use that as like my pieces. But the fact that it's just so smooth and perfect and spherical and shiny and shit like that, you know, like it just, the toy, yeah, it's just beyond like bootleg or artist made. It's just this fucking this real thing. I don't know.
And it's a weird feel to the resin too, right?
Yeah.
Unlike almost any resin you've ever touched.
Yeah. It's it's wild because there's obviously, you know, it's solid, it's completely opaque except for you kind of got that translucency through the wings, but absolutely like no like mold lines. There's a little spider living on here. Like no mold lines at all. Like the magnets just are absolutely perfect. Like I know B, you were talking, I think it was last week about the magnet game that he's got going on, and it is so slick and flush. It's just insane.
Yeah.
Are the wings magnet or peg?
What's that?
Are the wings peg or magnet?
No, they're magnets.
No fucking way.
Yeah, so they got that cool so and the magnets
so
just
clean.
Fit perfect. So yeah, if you take them off, it's really cool.
Isn't it crazy clean, dude? Like the magnet, just like the work around the magnet too. Like you look at that and it's like, dude, clean. That is wild, man. It doesn't get any cleaner. And you're right, dude. Some of the pieces that I have from him, even the smallest pieces, like a spike, on the arm or something, dude. That's a separately cast piece. And there's, and a lot of the times you get a multicolored figure like that and there's no paint on it. You know what I mean? They're just all individually cast pieces that make up this piece that you're just like, oh,
that's an extremely good point. But I actually hadn't. Yeah, there's zero paint on this. This is all resin. These are all like separate. That's actually I never thought about it like that. And that's pretty much all these pieces are just that. Like, there might be a few sort of bits of paint, and I think that's the dream, is like being a toy maker, is to kind of have those things that are actually different colors that on a normal person would be different articles of clothing or different sort of areas. To actually have them in those solid colors, like they are actual separate things, and it just makes it more real sort of thing.
I'll be honest, absolutely. I think it was even Angry Beast that first brought that to my attention, because it was him that a lot of times was almost doing that, where like the pants would be something or the eye, and he would almost then, after like watching our episode, do a whole like, oh, there's no paint, that's casted. And then Porpoise started doing that with like the skirts and the shirts on his Clever Girls as well, and then all of a sudden, like, it was kind of that clicked now, because before I think we all almost kind of thought like paint apps on places. And then we start looking at things like that, Alter Toys, and we start going, oh shit, no, they're painting with the resin basically and casting it in those areas.
Yeah. And even the I just sort of noticed this when I took the arms off, like just the amount of different sized magnets. So I use one size magnet for just everything, and unless there's like brains, I use a tiny little magnet. But this one, there's like so it's got 4 arms, and then 2 of the arms are big magnet, that's a small magnet. The magnets, like just even that, like being that sort of like in the zone where you can keep track of what magnet size is going in what hole, and just to keep it so clean. Like every 6th drill hole and magnet that I would sink would be like that clean, but majority of the time they'll just be like something will just be a little bit off center, or they'll just be magnet might be sunk just a little bit because I drilled the hole. But these are just fucking perfect, and they just snap in. There's obviously like no wobbling. These little bits on the top, so like just these tiny little, they're obviously cast completely separately. Like this was part of a mold, had that little kind of shiny bit. It's just nuts. So yeah, I was stoked. I don't think I questioned myself too much when I sort of bought it, and it was definitely one of the more expensive. It was probably the most expensive, I guess, resin piece that I have. Yeah, probably by far. Maybe even the most like expensive art toy that I've got. But like absolutely fucking love it. And hopefully the new will get its own so like focal point kind of thing, like it'll kind of have its own, because I've just kind of had it up on a shelf, and a lot of recent buys, they really just have been stacked up on the spare bed because we've had no room. So but yeah, I love this dude so much, and you're right, just like the weight of the resin and everything, and there's not one imperfection, not something that could have ever been an imperfection. Like it's just that clean. Nuts.
That is dope, man. You know, Baby Wotu on the had made a comment about I'm always amazed about how people can afford the toys like we all do. And I think it kind of goes back to what you just said, dude, on you know, that piece right there was one of the more expensive pieces, if not the most expensive piece in that show. But then you get something in hand like that and you see the kind of quality that it is. And I know, at least for me personally, dude, especially on the earlier Lab 9 pieces, and not just Lab 9 pieces, dude, but other people's pieces as well. You look at what you bought them for, and, you know, when I get a Lab 9 piece and I pay, let's say, $120 for it, right? I'm like, dude, that is an amazing deal. Yeah, it's $120, but I personally feel like that is an amazing deal. Now, his last one that he had, the Vamputron thing, that went up a little bit. That was in the 190 range. And I think that's more on par where, you know, it's, you know, you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. But at 120, you're like, that's an incredible deal. When you get it in hand, you're like, I don't have anything that's even remotely close to this, dude. This is from another planet. Like you said, the magnets, dude. I know that just in magnetic articulation, you know, you got the magnet level like this, right? Well, if you get one that's just a little bit off like that, it gets a little bit fucked up, right? But these, I mean, obviously there's a process to it, but it's completely level every single time, dude.
And getting, and this is probably more, it mightn't sort of make too much sense, but anyone that is like doing magnets, like sinking a magnet that size into a really strange shaped kind of thing that has that angle, getting it bit, like whether he's doing that like a big ass drill bit or like sinking a magnet into that size into a space that's kind of that weirder shape at that kind of angle to have at that level that's fucking really, really hard. He's done that 4 times with these. Like I've got shoulders on some figures where they're quite thin and hard to get into, but this is something else. Whether he's got some sort of like, oh, like he's a genius. Like he's got, I imagine he'd have so many contraptions and tools that sort of help him along the way. And whether he's got like a drill press that actually has something that can hold the figures at a perfect like an angle.
Or I think I've got to wonder if he molded the negative man, because I was having that same thought when you were showing those limbs. I was like, and the wings especially. I was like, for frick's sakes, like you'd almost have to press that magnet into the mold clay before.
Of course, that's how he does it. What did I think of that?
Like you're never gonna fucking drill that, homie.
Yeah.
Dude, and to get it on point and to get it right every single time, dude. Like the depth, the diameter,
snapping or going through one of those fucking wings or limbs after you just casted that, and then now you gotta try and color. No,
dude, you're absolutely right. I'm a dumbass. That is exactly how he's done it, because that's exactly how a professional would do it. But yeah.
Man,
maybe he didn't. Maybe he loves most toy makers are masochists, so he might actually just love the fact of like the chance of fucking up and having to do it all over again. He might love that. Who knows?
No way. Not with how these arms are poured with that perfect kind of like orange, like going through, just completely like balanced. And then on the bottom of the arms, which mightn't show up too much, you've kind of got like those spritz and sprays. Yeah, you can kind of see it a little bit. So
and it's like little tapped with a little like little paint tips.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if it's
or something.
It's resin, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so on like one side of the thing, he's kind of like flicked resin on it, and then the other side, it's kind of like poured down, sort of like over the mold. Or he's like flipped the mold and poured it just so it's like sunk to the bottom. And
2 parts.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and yeah, that's the other thing. Like, that's the orange is one pour, then it cures, and then the black is and that's how he gets that super solid contrast. And getting an orange that will sort of show through a black like that. Orange is a really, really tricky color. I've been messing with orange lately and kind of finally got a formula for a good opaque, like rich orange, but I find it a real challenge to kind of work with blending it with other colors. Especially because they look really like blue and orange. That came up really good. I think that's why I like it so much. It's get that blue orange without it just turning into like a brownie kind of.
There's like almost enough of like I don't want to say white, but you can almost see where the blue dissipates out of that out of the pour into the orange, so you're not getting that exact gray/brown complementary colors meeting. Gross. Blah.
Crumbs, you mentioned this, and this is another example of like, how the fuck did he do this? This was general purpose. So when he sent some stuff over for the Minton card show, I was like, dude, grab something from your store. So I got this guy. I don't have my UV torch.
Skin man. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Nice.
So this was so it's got cat hair on it.
Daddy?
Articulates.
I have no idea where any of these parts are from for this figure. I'll be honest. Not that I've sort of like actually actively looked, but
I think that's just the standard Skin Man from Kenner, the Swamp Thing series.
I
might be totally off, but
yeah, no, it probably is. I just don't. Yeah, I like Swamp Thing. I never saw the Swamp Thing toys over here that much, and as years have gone on, I've liked him, and probably just from Crumbs being such a fanboy as well, it's probably like got my interest sort of peaked in it as well. But I feel like I never saw Swamp Thing toys as a kid over here, but I'm probably wrong. Just didn't take notes.
Canada didn't have tons either, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so this is wild, and it looks fucking crazy under UV, but that's not actually what I was brought over to show you. I just thought that looked really cool. But yeah, the clever girl that you mentioned before. And again, a really good example of just like super, super clean work and just crazy marbling and just how many colors. Like we was talking to him, I don't know if it was on live or if it was just a Zoom catch up where he's like, this has got 6 colors, and I was just like, what resin are you using? It's like 325, and I'm like, doesn't that got like a 2-minute pot life or something? So you've got to do this, you'll do 5 colors in like 2 minutes. I could be wrong. I don't know if he's still in the comments, but yeah, I was just like that logistically trying to do that in that amount of time. I was like, I need some of those because that's really, really hard to do.
Yo, Tiddy, homie, out of curiosity, because I'm with you. Like, I used to always think, like, the more colors in something, I'm thinking to myself, holy frick damn, right? Like, you've got all these cuts. And then, of course, we sometimes see overpours, and you can usually tell because they've got the harder gradient lines. But personally, if you were going to be trying to attempt something like this, and you did have, like, let's say 4 or 5 molds that you knew were currently in good shape, would you probably mix enough to almost do all 4 or 5 molds, or would you probably go like 10 milliliters per cup and just bang out one and cross your fingers and pray?
So I've done this a couple of times with. I feel like I did it recently. I needed 2 different colored pieces. What was it for? It's probably way easier to explain. I've done it both ways. So because my concern, and Porpoise probably got rid of that concern, is I think if I'd have too many colors, there's more chance of it all just blending together to be just a bleh. However, once Porpoise started pushing these out, I was like, holy shit, you can still see the pink, the orange, the clear, the green. Like it can actually work. And this is probably a little bit of an easier kind of way to see it. But yeah, I don't know. I think I really wish I could remember the toys that I was making, where maybe it was a Patreon and I was doing the doppelgangers or something. And I was like, man, it's going to take me ages doing single colors. And I was like, holy shit, I got 2 molds, 2 colors. I can just do 2 at a time sort of thing. Anyway, this clever girl, the reason, obviously it looks amazing and the pour and everything like that. I have no idea how he did this. I don't know how, and I'm not upskirting her or anything like that, but I just don't know how
The
he's put this
skirt with no bubbles.
I don't know how he's got the head in there. What
The
I want
ball
to say is
joint.
that maybe, yeah, the ball joint, and like maybe it's like it's sort of like heated up and then kind of like smushed in, and then I don't know, but I cannot figure out how. And if he just sort of chimed in and says, look, the dress is like one mold and then the legs are another, and I've glued them together, which I
Well, the
would
legs go
maybe.
right up into the torso, and the dress is a separate, like, sleeve, almost like a cape.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
B and I, because ours are colored, we might be able to see it a
Mhm.
little differently than yours because it's clear. Um, but I believe it's a separate casted part. And maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it's not that way, but
Nah, it's got to be. But yeah, just trying to. I love that. I love getting a toy and kind of being like, how do you do that? Like, what's going on here? And whether it's through something just looking ridiculously kind of clean, or just something that could be a very, very simple like explanation, but to make it look like, hey, that's
oh,
how do you do
gorgeous.
that? You tricked me.
And the crystal clear portions with the colored
Mm.
portions just make it fucking so sexy, man.
Yeah, it's
I'm
Dude,
even
really.
wondering with a pour with that many colors, if it's about the timing of which colors go in too, right? Like obviously blue and orange might make that gray or brown, but if you were to actually go blue then yellow, then the yellow is going to turn it potentially green as they hit. Then the yellow as you hit it with the red might actually go a little bit orange. And then if you finished off the red with a little bit more blue, then you're going to get that purple. So it's I wonder if even timing which color cup goes in when to try and make sure you're avoiding clashes.
Absolutely. And that's where a piece can look really great marbled, or can look really terrible. If you're chucking a darker color in before you're putting a lighter color in, don't expect the lighter color to come through. And sometimes you can use that sort of thing to your advantage. But if anyone is marbling, you would always I shouldn't do anything you should do. What I do is just fucking chuck in your lightest color and then kind of go to your darkest, whether you're starting at, a white all the way up to a kind of black, or just a white and black, but always starting with the lighter color, because that, and black generally will just punch. It'll just wash everything. Like sometimes
Good
you're
luck.
lucky enough for it to sort of drain down the mold, but no other colors are coming through, no matter how. And the same, like if you've got like a smoky gray or something like that, it's just going to wash shit out. So absolutely the order and knowing, yeah, what's going to happen if this, because you can get some really cool effects with 2 colors like merging, but a lot of the time you can get some really shitty effects. But porpoise is a really good example of like colors going in a really, really good order, and still just getting like purples coming through on the feet and the toes. And purple's another good example of the will clash with the color and just kind of make it a little bit of nothing. Whereas, if you've got kind of like blue and pink crashing together, you get a bit of a purple, which is cool. But then if you've got a green coming into that purple, it just goes Bleh. So yeah, I love these guys. They're sick.
They're dope, man. The dinosaurs in general, man. That's Crumbs and I bought off the same post. There was two of those. And dude, everything somebody had said in the chat a few minutes ago, baby BOD said it's the best feeling to get a toy that you can just look at in your room and be filled with happiness. Dude, and I'm looking at my porpoise stuff across the room, dude, and that's exactly what it is, man. And it's not only that, right? Like it's the idea of dinosaurs and like everyday clothing, which I love just in general, right? But then you start looking at the pores and the articulation and how many pieces we were talking about Lab 9, how many pieces are those, dude? Look how many pieces are in that Clever Girl, and look how much articulation is in there, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, that's I'm really glad you brought it as well, because it is, yeah, like there's the complexity of like the pore, the kind of matching of the colors and the clear and that sort of thing, but like the articulation again. Is it like glass? Because I don't want to like fuck with them, but they use little Glios kind of ends. Yeah.
He's using Glios
Yeah,
tags, and then he actually mentioned he's using a 326 instead of 325 on that as well.
Nice. Yeah, cool. That makes sense. I use 326 as well. Yeah, for some reason I thought it was 325. I was like, that's just impossible pouring that many colors. Anyway, but yeah, I'd love to. I don't know whether he's going to spill the beans in the comments, but yeah, how we got that in there. Is it a matter of like, did it while the resin was soft, or how did you do the ball joint porpoise? Anyway, but yeah, the articulation and also like this, like he's got no articulation, but he doesn't like need it. And I think if he kind of did, it'd sort of start to take away from just how the resins just kind of flowed through the mold. So
yeah, I love the lankiness of that character. I mean, it's a 3.75, right? But it's a little bit taller.
5.5.
Yeah, and I think it really displays that whole gradient of color, dude, in the long limbs.
Yeah, you sort of get these like, long veins of like orange and stuff sort of going up, where sometimes you can get those like levels, even like, try and like be marbling, it just doesn't quite flow, and you just kind of get those levels. Whereas these, it kind of looks like these creepy green veins, which are just those
it's like smoky wisps.
Yeah.
That's a good description. They're smoky wisps.
As you're walking back into the collection room there, Tiddy, baby BOD is asking, do you ever get a toy that's in a colorway that you don't like just because it's all you can get of that particular one?
Absolutely. I'll show you one. I don't know if this is bootleg. It's a Healy made. I'll show you this one. This is the first Raider that I got, so that probably would mean it was the first Healy made that I got. I'm not a big Voltron. I'm not a big Voltron fan at all. My brother is, and I kind of like would sort of play with the toys as a kid. Got a lot of respect for it. Like it's not like I don't like it, but I saw this go up and looked at it and was like, I'm not really sure, because all the Raiders that I'd seen had been like Joker one and all these really cool ones, and then saw this, and I don't think at first, because you can sometimes be a little bit cryptic with the names that he sort of gives them, unless you kind of know the colorway straight away. And I don't think I got it because it was like 4 lines or something, which is really at the time, I didn't realize it was a Voltron kind of colorway, and I wasn't stoked on it, but I was like, I fucking need to get a Raider. I need to see what they are. I need to know what they feel like, how big they are, how do they move? Like, just I needed one. So, yeah, definitely. And I don't regret sort of getting it, but he's probably not my most favorite Raider that I have. But at the same time, it was kind of like the start of a massive addiction. So it's like taking your first pill or having your first line right here.
It might not have been the cleanest shit, might not have been the best shit, but it's what you had on the table when a homie said here.
Dude, and isn't that funny too, man? It's all like eye of the beholder, right? Because when I saw that one and I made that, obviously Voltron, right? And I loved Voltron as a kid. That was one of my favorite ones. I think the first one that I had from him was the original, the Boba Fett one. But that one came out just shortly after it, man. And I loved it. I was like, oh, no way, dude, that's sick. But I think the whole key with that Raider line, at least in that first, what was it, 9, 10 of them, was the colors that really turned you on to something else. You know what I mean? It's like a well-known color scheme that you can identify, Joker, Punisher, Voltron. I'm fucking brilliant, dude.
Again, when he said like Tiddy, when you mentioned like the obscurity ones, in my opinion, that Stormtrooper recently on the oh fuck, what's that figure there? You ended up giving one away last week there, B. but it was actually called the THX. And like the reality is that Lucasfilm Industry actually had one of their composers create that THX sound to ensure that when you're in a theater, you're actually going to get the full surround sound you'd get from watching the Star Wars movies. In my brain, I'm like, what a fucking dope ass nod. That's going to be like the Stormtrooper Star Wars one. And you're going with THX, like the nod being to that fucking stupid wow made by your composer at the fucking Lucasfilms.
I think THX is a movie. Came out before Star Wars, so THX.
Well, fuck my dick off in outer space, and anyways, double cool.
And
can't we both win?
The baddies in it have these like white and black uniforms. So I think, sorry, Crumbs, but I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. And,
I don't mean to be that guy, but the cum already landed and it's dried. So do what you want, but like I've done what I was going to do.
You actually like you make this is I'm going to use this as a little bit of a segue because I still keep an eye out for raiders and troopers and assassins, and I've bought a couple kind of recently. But I saw the THX ones and was looking at them and I'm not sure, and this is no kind of not fucking throwing shade or anything like that, but they just didn't grab me, and I'm not sure if it was like that hard contrast between the black and the white. I'm not sure if it was just the form of the figure. There was just something I was just kind of like, maybe it was just a bit too plain. Maybe my palette's just a bit too fucking psychedelic and colorful. But it was more like, why doesn't, like, this is white and black. This is a classic combination. Like, why doesn't it kind of fit? And I honestly couldn't work it out. Then I was like, I'm not huge into like white looking figures or anything like that. And I love the color scheme of like, a white and black that are marbled. But then I was like, this is probably my favorite Raider, which is like the Thrawn Raider, which came out a couple of years ago. I bought 2 of these. But I was like, that's why that looks fucking dope. Mainly because I'm just a huge Thrawn fanboy as well. But yeah, this is probably my most favorite Raider, just getting that like that white and that gray contrast, and it's just so like the Raider head just fits Thrawn so much. Like he's got that same like bit of a widow's peaked hairline, skinny kind of face. It looks like fucking Thrawn with an eye patch, which I thought was really, really cool because the Raider is just this kind of, I guess, bit of a generic like combination of bad dude sort of eye patch or the hood and that kind of thing. But for that sort of template just to fit like a character so well, with whether that was intentional, whether Healy's just fucking thought it looked like Thrawn too, but just when something kind of fits that well, that wasn't necessarily maybe like the initial intention, like whether Healy made the Raider to eventually make one that looked like Thrawn, I highly doubt. But for something to just kind of fit the template so well, and it is just how we can make Raiders with those different color schemes, but they just look like completely different characters, or how he just absolutely nails the color schemes. And if you know it, and it clicks. Like there's been I don't know if I've got one up.
That original run too, that one was part of one of the original whatever 9 or 10 or whatever it was, but they have a different feel, huh? I mean, and you can definitely tell there's a large price difference between those ones and some of the ones that he's putting out now, but those ones were all I believe that hand painted, and they just have a little bit more of a heavier more solid feel, I would say. I don't know, it's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, this one I thought was pretty cool. I think this was an assassin. I don't know if he's done the Raider or the Trooper. I think I bought 2 of these as well.
Oh, that's a dope one.
Which I was like, man, I know that fucking colorway from somewhere, and it was like, I'm pretty sure it's the Cobra La characters out of G.I. Joe, which is a nice kind of bit of not a deep cut, but he just got the colors like so spot on. And I'll be honest, it took me a while to come around to what's this one, the Assassin. I wasn't huge on the helmet sort of spare head. I probably much preferred the kind of the actual sort of like feminine face, and I always found the tail really hard to put in. Like I'm not shitting, like this is just the reality of it. When you kind of put these together, you
just gotta ram it in the ass
a lot, and you really don't want to like slip and
yeah, that's a tough one, man. And you know what I like about that particular one too is I believe that version or that colorway, I think he called it like 1985 is what that one's called. But he nailed it. I mean, those colors, or I mean, that's what those colors are from. That's dope, man. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That's a good one.
It's really beautiful. So I'm really keen to see if he does the other figures in that sort of colorway. So that'd be really cool. But yeah, just like the eyes and yeah, That's really cool.
Mm.
Anyway, I've got another Healy made here. So this was something that I consistently always miss out on, probably up until a little bit more recently, but I would always miss these guys. And it was like the Healy made wrestlers, which was, yeah, like he kind of really got me in with the Raiders. And I was like, oh, I fucking love the Raiders. And you start sort of seeing him sharing these photos of like the wrestlers, and that was I was like, dude, how does he do it, man? Like like literally how does he do it? But yeah, I think this was one of those ones where you stay up until 3 a.m. and finally get it. And you know, these are worth what you pay for them, but they're not cheap. Like a Raider's pretty cheap, especially for the quality that you get. And it's obviously like it's made in a factory or whatever, but these guys
are casted right there in his shop, right?
Yeah. This is him. Like this is him doing this stuff. So when that kind of clicked for me, was really cool. And I think initially I looked at it with a very, very critical eye. Like I was like looking for I was like, can this dude actually do something wrong? And I would look through a very, very critical eye, and I'd be like, oh, certainly. Oh. And then as life's gone on, I've realized that, you know, you can't fucking see things that I'm seeing on here when you look at this figure, because it is so cool. So, yeah. And just like the perfect like tone of just how he matches the colors, I think is color matching is a real challenge for me anyway. But yeah, and still got like the stamp, the original stamps. And I know Crumbs, I think
fatty deep stamp.
Yeah. When I got it initially a few years ago, we were sort of talking about like, shit, is that the original like stamp from the thing? Are these made in a factory? Like, is this the actual like factory stamp that he's gone and got them done? And all those kind of little mysteries that you sort of start to pick up with on the figures. But yeah, but definitely I love the Zuckuss one. I've also got Emperor Palpatine, he's in there as well. But I had to kind of pick one so we're not here all day. So yeah, and I think when I started making toys, I used the Zuckuss head a lot. Like, you know, you featured one last year. You featured Pinkus, I think I called him last week. So yeah, when I saw there was a Zuckuss, I was like, fuck, I've got to get that, because the fets always just go straight away, and I generally just miss the drops. And there's been a couple that I've opted out of, like I've seen it, could have got it, but was just like, oh nah. And you always have instant regret after that. But yeah. And sometimes you get, and this is not to do with healing, but sometimes you buy stuff and you're like, I didn't really need that, and I just got caught up in the excitement. Not that I have many pieces like that, but it occasionally happens.
Dude, the SWWF, I think that's probably my favorite Healy line, dude. But doesn't the feel of those is different, dude? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you take that and then you take the Raider that you just had, completely different, dude. The SWWF to me feels almost like a raw porcelain. You know what I mean? Like a porcelain, like before a glaze. It's dude, those things they're crazy good, dude. Like you said, so it's like 70 US for those, right? Versus, you know, the Healy that painted one, when those first came out, those were above, I want to say those are like between 50 and 70 as well. But then the newer ones are more like 25, 30, right? The smaller ones. But definitely, dude, I mean, for those, and that price has been pretty consistent on those for at least the last, I don't know, at least all the redos, like, right? He came out with that second line, which was basically just some new ones and then some repops of the old ones. But those have all been about $70, dude. But my point is, extremely worth it, right? Like, I have no problem being like, yeah, I paid $70 for this. Like, so what? That's fucking worth it, dude. You know?
Fuck yeah. Absolutely. And you know, when I sort of grab stuff off Healy, I just sort of say to him, hey, can you just hold that and I'll get another thing for your next drop. And started doing that a bit more recently. But yeah, sometimes at the time, like, yeah, without a little bit of combined shipping, it would be a bit hard. But yeah, the texture, so that was one thing that kind of spun me out as well. That was you're right, with that sort of like weird, like matte kind of porcelain, like ceramic feel. I think that was really surprising. I was so used to kind of having a bit more of a rubbery kind of feel, I guess, with the kind of resins that we use, or resins that I use, or there'll be that kind of bit of translucency, so you can kind of, but yeah, when it's like opaque and it's that kind of got that matte sort of to it, it completely feels like a different material entirely.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, so he's awesome. I fucking love that too.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, the chat's even talking. Oh yeah, fuck that.
So he's cool. So
Ooh.
from, was it Decon? Or do I want to
Sir.
say Decon?
The Fletcher
That's a
table
Fletch
decon.
exclusive right there.
Yeah. So I remember Fletch messaging me saying, "Oh, you know, Healy Mate's sending some shit for the table." I was like, "No fucking way, man!"
Yeah.
And not only that, but he was like making stuff for it. So that was such an exciting weekend. Like just kind of knowing that you know you got the homies, like the real fucking homies are there. You got one selling, you got B walking around. Like that was so exciting just to kind of see.
That was fun.
Updates and shows and wait, I think I might have dropped. Maybe I was on Toyz.
You were.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
You were on.
Yeah, so that was so exciting. It was kind of like, dudes, we're doing it. And
Yeah.
I wasn't doing shit. I was sitting here like watching you guys were actually doing stuff, but it was that I don't know. It just felt
We're
like
gonna do it again this year. We're gonna do it again this year, man. We're gonna figure something out, man. But I think there's gonna be a lot of people out there this time. Somebody was just talking about who's going to decon. I think Fletch said that, but yeah, man, we're gonna fucking roll it back and do it again, dude. The glow on that one, isn't it just phenomenal?
Yeah. So I can't remember who. No, I Need Toys. I Need Toys was messaging me trying to crack the code of how you get this this color and to someone that hasn't seen these figures before, to the untrained eye, it just looks like an amazing like pink and kind of purpley, you know, gooey sort of figure. But once you start hitting this with the UV light and the glow, there's like 5 different colors in there, and it's just it's absolutely bonkers, and they're all contrasting and just working off each other perfectly. So, and it took me a little while to come around to this particular design. I think he'd done a couple, maybe it was a couple of clear ones, and I couldn't quite identify like what it was. I guess I think I kind of need to know what's a leg or what's the base figure. And I think this was obviously, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the wrestlers, and he's just kind of packed on resin. And is it the IG88? He's got the wrestler, I think.
You know, I don't know what the base one that he used, but I will say that I was, you know, you kind of, when you first get those and you don't have one that's painted, you kind of struggle to find the details, you know what I mean? But I do have ones that kind of highlight some of the, like the eyes at least. And it's crazy, dude. The fade on that thing is nuts, man.
It's wild. And when you look, it won't come, there's no way it'll come through on the camera, but like he's got this pink foot, and you can just see a nice pinky wisp, Bill Wheaton, a nice wisp going up through that kind of like connects to like the blob at the top. And yeah, which is, and I fucking, you know, and I can sometimes pull it off with my modeling, but when you can get that and it kind of looks like this gooey limb that's just kind of like gone, dude. And like these are little details that you really don't notice until you actually buy these figures and get them up close and throw them under UV and turn the lights off, or really sit there and, you know, and I don't want to say study it, but just really appreciate like what's gone into it and how hard it is and how many times it took to get something that sort of comes out that clean, to have that amount of pop, to have that sort of even distribution of like, you know, pink to blue to sort of purple to pinky orange. And it's nuts. Like, you know, and you couldn't articulate something like this, but there's no way you'd want it to be articulated, because it would just sort of take away from that singular kind of like vibe. And you totally, I actually completely forgot that it had eyes up there, so they'll again they won't come through. But yeah, if they're not sort of like detailed, I guess I was just kind of like, I don't know if I can really see it. And then I think Fletch sent me some photos, and then someone sent me maybe it was like a video under glow, and I was just like, fucking yes, give me that, right?
Because the glow does have like yellows and blues, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And you know, and again, dude, and that one with the texture on that one, right? So we saw the SWWF, which was like you said, kind of like a matte porcelain, almost like a rough type feel, but very it feels very high end. Holy shit!
Actually, so this is starting to glow. I'll see if I can get some sun on it.
But this one is like that one, even though it's bumpy, right? It's very smooth. It's glossy. It's got a really good feel to it, man. Just, I think that's something that's overlooked a lot too. Textures that he uses. Holy shit, bro.
Yeah, that's wild. And it looked like it's showing up pretty good on the video, but so in person, it's like what was purple is like bright blue, almost fucking like royal blue, like the way it sort of glows, and then everything that was pink glows like this bright orangey, like yellow. but not like that just kind of standard glow powder yellow. Like there's like that just orange and just kind of like hints of, yeah, that's nuts. And like, yeah, just the amount of like glow powder in there must be insane, because I was just sitting out there for a couple of minutes, not really sitting in, under a fucking UV light or something, and it just picks it up. And this is one, yeah, when you walk out the room and you turn the light off, it's probably definitely the brightest that glows.
When you
Yeah.
walked out of the room and turned the light off, I heard that action figure say, "I'd fuck me. Would you fuck me?" I swear, man.
I'll give
Oh
this
man,
That's beautiful.
pass this
Dude,
one out just because we were talking about decon as well.
that's a great one. Man, I think that was an edition of 10, if I'm not mistaken. But dude,
This
great
was
one, man.
this came in as well
no.
with the Healy mate. So I had collaborated with Hence to Meet, but I'd sent
Mm.
some of my figures and like that we'd collaborated on, but I think the penny dropped that I didn't have any of his, and then he said he was sending some stuff to Decon for Fletch, and I was like, oh yeah. So when I kind of got my Healy made order in and grabbed whatever else, I was like, dude, I've got to get a Hence to Meet. Like this is my boy, and I haven't even So there we go. He's got the Tism Stalker dude there. So yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna go for it, and was absolutely blown away by it. Like
Insane, man. Even the size of it in your hands, it's like, it looks like one of the OG Playmates almost. Like, that's insane, man. The quality is nuts.
it absolutely does. Like I wanted this figure anyway, but when I pulled it out, then again, you start to really appreciate it and look it up closely and start to be like, how did he do that? What's he? And I knew, might have been more recently or a little while ago, like he was putting a lot of work into making his own blisters and just like the work that's gone into it. Like it's got like the alien like running up the card, and you've got like Xenomorph hunting Raph just sort of up in the corner there, just like coming down, and all the crazy, just all the shit on the back. Like it is legit. Like I was really, really impressed. And then it's just talking about the card, like the actual figure itself. I don't know. Like, did he cast these? I actually don't know. Did he cast these? Did he print them? Does anyone know?
You know what, dude? I saw one. Did you say that came from Decon?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah. So Fletch had those at his booth too. And that was the first time I'd ever seen one in person. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I saw one at Fletch's house before that. But dude, I said the exact same thing. I don't know how he's doing that, because
Yeah.
they look like all original shit, So I don't know, but it's crazy good work, dude. I think that dude is super underrated, man.
Yeah, he really is. And I think it was really, really shit. And I don't think every time I talk about him, it should like refer back to it. But unfortunately, it was one of those artists where his page got hacked and he lost momentum with his work. And I think that unfortunately, maybe he never fully got back to sort of where he was. And maybe he's doing his own sort of thing now. I touch base with him every now and then. But yeah, he was absolutely on a roll. He was doing a lot of those hip hop figures as well, which he absolutely killed. A lot of were references that I didn't get. Like I like hip hop, but he was really sort of going for sort of characters and shit that I'm not funky enough to sort of know about. But
dude, Deltron, he did a bunch of Deltron figures. Those are badass, dude. Deltron, that's Del the Funky Homo Sapien, dude. That dude is a local Bay Area legend from hieroglyphics. Dope, man. And he did like 3 different figures of them. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. And he was just pumping them out. So so I really love this, but it was that kind of moment of like, holy fuck, how did he do this? And knowing that the card just is so slick, and the bubble, I think having a handmade blister is definitely as another little sprinkle of spice onto any type of piece that you receive. Because I sure as shit don't make my own blisters, but anyone that does, that's a tough gig, man.
Yeah. That's a whole nother deal, right? Fucking A, man. Blisters. People making their own. Dude.
That's where collabs sometimes come in handy, though, too.
Yeah, there you go, man. Have somebody else do it. Hey, I saw you really good at this.
See, just scooped a handful there. What else you got there? What we got?
Yeah, so this is Crumbs knows about this guy. I've had this guy.
That's a beauty, man. In the Tiddy colors. No.
I'll try and get a bit better light. It's actually fucking dusty. My shit is dusty.
Oh man,
I don't know why. I always think you're yellow blue, and then it's yellow purple, right?
It's It's sort of like yellow purple. That's probably the most solid kind of look at the purple. So, and you can see his eyes. What are they? Teal. They're kind of like that turquoise teal.
I love the teal cape too, man.
Yeah.
It really sort of tops it off. So this war might have been the first one trick piece that I got, or maybe second. And it was at that time when everyone wanted a swampy, like everyone was just like bombarding him with like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And sort of chatting to the dude pretty consistently for the past 3 or so years. It was kind of cool to hear him sort of, that he's sort of busy with these orders, but, he takes this shit very, very seriously, and he takes his swampies very seriously. And I'm pretty sure Crumbs and I have sat on a live with it, or not a live, like a Zoom with him once. And he's like, yeah, man, these are all my rejects. And then there's just this table of all these awesome figures. And you're like, what is wrong?
Dude, I was about to say, if anybody has ever commissioned a Swamp Thing from One Trick, know that the one you're seeing is not the one and only cast. Like, there is guaranteed probably at least 1 or 2 before that one of him going, no, that didn't settle the way I wanted. That's not quite. And then it just goes into this pile of being like, one day I'll maybe,
Yeah, like, I might sort of put some paint on it or something, but yeah, and you're just like, what? But yeah, I know that I think he was really kind of stressing about the colors, because I think a lot of the Swampies up until that point, he hadn't done a bunch of kind of bright kind of colors. I think they were a little bit more kind of swampy-ish. So I think he was really kind of stressing about how the colors would go together, and if I'd sort of like that kind of combination. And I fucking loved it. Like, I was just like straight away. And because at the time that, not many Swampies kind of, had that brighter palette.
I love 80s colors, dude. And that one's like 1987 all over it, dude. You know what I mean? Especially with the blue hitting it off with the cape, just to kind of... Dude, and then the green little figure in the hand, bro, to top that off, dude. I love that little dime bag of like little figures like that it comes with, right?
That's shit, man. And yeah, you're like the cape. Like, I've only really started messing with capes recently, but just like the stuff that you can use for capes that looks so cool and so different that you just don't consider for whatever reason. But One Trick's kind of got that eye where he'll just be like, yeah, this is suits, will make it work. So I was really excited when this came over, and yeah, like, 4 points of articulation. Again, someone that's got insane magnet game is Tony, and we know that he casts usually with that magnet cavity, which is the smart thing to do. Put the time in if you're making toys, and make those cavities you can in your molds if it works. Sometimes your molds it's not going to work, but man, it saves so much time and stress on the other end. So yeah, I love having this, and I really couldn't say that there's many Swamp Things out there that kind of look similar to my one. What's that line from Jarhead? This thing is mine, and it is I can't remember. There's that line that they talk about their gun, and there's that sort of shit.
Oh, Full Metal Jacket. Yeah. Like it, but this one is mine. Yeah.
This guy's
mine. I hate being that guy, man, only because like he did the same thing with this one with the color combos. Where like, I don't know if it'll work. And then afterwards, he was like, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised with the brights on it. But you're right. It's almost like he not intentionally maybe, but it's almost like the bright, funky colors don't naturally slide over to the Swamp Thing typically. And yours is sexy, man. That like vibrant pinky purple with that yellow. It's almost like popsicles and fucking summertime juice.
These are really hard colors to pour together as well, because they so easily turn, and you kind of see a little bit of it on the back kind of thing. They just kind of
gray and brown.
Yeah, it can just start to get into browny territory, but like the way that it's sort of poured, it's actually balanced out really well. Like even this kind of like yellow. So I keep looking at it like you guys can see it from my eyes. This kind of like yellow foot just kind of like creeping up, keeping that like bright yellow with the purple underneath is fucking, it's hard to get that to come out right without them all just blending. And so, but what I always forget about One Trick's piece, and I know some artists do this, but he doesn't pour his legs like you don't pour your resin in the legs. He's in a gang mold, so he keeps all the original bottoms of the feet with the holes, and that's really, really cool. I know I noticed that on, I think I had a Hella Radical piece in my hand the other day as well from, I think it was like the first piece I actually bought, but that's also got like the original bits of the feet because that's how they've set up their molds. And again,
Screwing the double toothpick hot glue from the joint down.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, Eddie said that One Trick is going to be on Friday on Bootleg Overdose tomorrow night. That is 12 midnight Eastern, 9 o'clock Pacific here in the States. But One Trick Pony will be on that. That's also with Barbarian Rage and Drew from Plagued Earth. Fletch with the comment of the night, Parker Lewis can't lose vibes. What a great show. Mr. Ordinary follows it up, synchronized swatches right on time. Are you familiar with that show, man? There was a show in the 80s called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And it was a kind of like a sitcom here in the States. And do you remember those watches? They were called swatches, very 80s, had lots of 80s colors. Anyways, but yeah, totally those vibes on there, man. That's mid to late 80s for sure.
I like that. That's actually that's a really good idea for like different color combinations. I remember like I couldn't say a specific one, but those really bright swatch watches, and they have like the rubbery kind of band and stuff, and the faces would be like popping. That's good. That's good fucking content for color combinations, actually, because it is. I love that 80s cheesy fluoro,
bro. Dude, TNC Surf Designs, Gecko, like those brands right there were all, they were great, dude. For color combos, they were great, man. They were just, they were bright, neon, pinks, yellows, blues. They were awesome, dude. Those were fucking great times, dude. God dang it. What can you do, man?
Good old Coke days.
I was just about to say
Coke days. I was like in 4th grade, dude.
Yeah, not the dudes making the shit you were loving. They were like, dude, you know what kids are gonna love? Shoes.
That's true.
Flash all the time. And like,
100%.
What if they had glasses that were green, like Swamp Thing's face?
Well, bro, these were all guys that were, you figured the 80s, right? How close were the 60s to the 80s? Pretty fucking close, right? So you got guys that were in their, younger days in their 60s, and now they're our age in the 80s, and they're like, oh, check this shit out. That's kind of cool, man.
I'll show off this is a bit of a grail of one of my own, and B, this is one I messaged you about the other day, because I'll tell for those that aren't B and don't know, probably about 2 years ago, B messaged me and asked me to make like a 4-carded like showcase of 4 different characters. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll get onto it. So I would sort of cast figures. I think I checked in with them and say, do you like this one? Yep, cool, put it aside. And then for the next character, would sort of do a similar thing. And then I was like, I think we had 3 or 4. No, there must have been 4 figures aside. And this is absolutely 100% on me. I just never really got around to making like the card for it. And it was just a project that never went anywhere because of me.
But then you started Patreon, and it was like, I mean, you're a busy man. That was a large order, man. I didn't know what the fuck I wanted. I remember I was trying to do a stalker set. I was like, I want all the stalkers. And you had the card and you laid it out. I'm like, wow, dude, that's fucking bizarre. And you're like, man, I don't know how I'm going to make this bubble. And I'm just like, I don't even care. I don't even care when it's done. And then, Patreon started.
So those figures, I should actually go and grab the rest. Those figures have just sat in a box next to B's Patreon box for the past 2 years, and they've literally been there. And I'd sort of glance at it and be like, man, what am I going to do? I'm just not going to have time to make a card. So I've got the other figures aside, but this one, I was like, I don't know if I can actually let go of this because a couple of reasons. The colors are pretty cool. And I just put the cape on him the other day, so that's not anything to do with why I'm keeping him. But I realized after watching you guys' show last week that I don't actually have a Frankenstalker of my own, except for one from the very, very, very first drop that I did, which is rough as fuck. And it's just like the head doesn't come out, and the colors are okay, but it's not that good.
That one's so good, man.
Yeah, it's got like the 5 points of articulation if you count the head. So it's got like the removable head with the magnet in there. Still got the saber. Like these sabers are the reason I don't do this stuff anymore is because it's really fiddly and hard.
Yeah, those were so good though. God dang it!
I was literally just thinking that. I'm like, but they're so good.
They're so good,
dude. So you're telling me right now that I have more Frankenstalkers than you? You have 2?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think everyone in the world that's more than one probably has. I'll grab the OG one that I've still got.
Dude, do you see the color fade on that, dude? The
Dude,
pinks and the purples on it. That's wild, dude. That is a great one.
yeah.
Dude, that's now and later's all over it, man. Oh God.
Oh, yeah, that's the one that came from the
Oh
very
shit.
top. So he's even still got the
Wow.
it's got like the hole in the back of the where the saber would have gone. In later ones, I filled that in. I lost the saber for this guy, but it's also like pre-pressure pot. So there's like probably won't be able to see in the light, but there's like all these bubbles. Maybe a bit easy to see on the gray.
What an oddly sick color combo, though, man.
And that was cool. So I realized when I was making the first bunch of Frankenstein, because I was like trying all these different color combinations, and then realized that they were starting to look like basketball teams, like NBA teams. And I'm not a sports person, I didn't care, but I've always liked the colors of NBA teams. And messaged a mate who has more knowledge around that stuff, and he's like, yeah. Then he's like, I think he was like, try Pistons one, and I was like, okay, and then sort of did that. So it was not intentional, but it was also really good inspiration for fucking awesome colors, like. But then they can be like too close, like I know Lakers, yellow, purple, not good for you. So sometimes it can backfire when it's like that's way too close to something that I just really hate or whatever. So yeah, that was a really cool combination. I think he was like the last one to sell, so I just like, oh, I'll just keep it. But yeah, he's very, very rough compared to this guy. And just the pour came out. I don't do much marbling with the so this is in 305, smooth on 305. So it's a rigid resin. And I just don't marble with it anymore. It's a lot more rougher on the molds because it is brittle. It's a lot tougher. Maybe feels like it maybe heats up a little bit more, but it can be really brutal on your molds because of its brittleness. And the marbling can also be quite hard with those sort of colors. But I think this was at a time where I was just packing in heaps and heaps of pigment. Because often like this type of resin will be really bleached by its curing process, but these are still really strong. So I must have used shitloads of pigment, which I've tried to ease off on now because it's not good for longevity and that sort of thing.
Dude, two things about that figure in particular, man, is one, the glove and then the saber contrast right there, the pink and the blue. That's crazy. And then the other thing that's really, I think what it is, dude, it's super aesthetically appealing to me and it looks very balanced, and I think it's because the gloves are the same color from like the elbow down or maybe a little bit more, you know what I mean? Something about that them being the same color, dude, that's a great looking figure, dude. Just not only the design but the pour on that is, which makes me wonder, dude, you tell me, man, like Big Crumbs, you can probably answer this too. Like when I see shit like that, how random is that, dude? Did you mean for it to be like that?
Pretty fucking random. So it depends. I'm really spewing. I can't show off certain figures because it's a really good example. What I've realized a lot more recently that, when you're pouring the resin in, so the way my molds would work, you would have your arms, you'd have like a pole between the arms. Imagine that this thing isn't that long, so they'd be about that far apart, and you'd have a tube up there, your gate. So and depending how you've like made your mold, if sort of one arm is just sort of sitting a little bit more, or if it's a bit more on an angle, or how the silicon's cured. So when you're actually pouring your resin, the actual pieces that you're about to pour could be a bit of an angle. So once the resin pours in, it's going to like go down to one. So this obviously has been a mold where it was quite balanced, where the resin's just been able to distribute. But yeah, if you just happen to have your mold on just a little bit of a kink and you don't sort of know it at the time, and then you'll pull the things out, and all of a sudden every left arm is like more solid one color. And so you can be a little bit intentional, but so much of the time for me, it's fucking random. I did I think Jimmy Folklore got it, and it was Vladstronaut from E2K, and I poured it in white and black. And the black and white just kind of blended to the point where it sort of like hit his groin, and it was all one piece, hit his groin, and then like the pants were like white, and it was completely random, but it looked like I'd put two different pours and like glued them together. So that is anyway, like the goal of like marbling is to kind of get a little bit of symmetry, but also chaos somewhere in there. It's that sort of thing. But yeah, you could be, if you were to measure out how much resin it would take to fill the glove, like you could actually do it, but there's always going to be like residual resin sort of on the insides and a bit of overspill. So it's really hard to get symmetry like that. I've been doing
sure.
Sorry, Comes.
No, I'm sorry, man.
No, I've got the project I've been working on. So I've been casting 2 figures at a time and kind of having that thing. I want that sort of symmetry. And one of them is a bit of a kink. So you try and kind of counteract that when you're actually pouring your resin. But yeah, fuck man, it's really hard. But you're right. I think that's also what sold me about the contrast. Like you've got the green, aqua sort of glove and then the pink saber.
Yeah.
Just that shit work out. And again, like that wasn't, I think when I poured these sabers, they're actually poured flat and you just kind of like smush all the resin in there. Then, so yeah, a lot of things you don't plan. And it's until you're like actually assembling the figure that you're like, holy shit, this is really cool. And you'll sometimes cast things and be like, this is fucked. It didn't come out how I wanted it to. And then you actually like start to put it all together and you're like, oh, actually it worked perfect. It was just because I was looking at this single piece for half an hour. And then once you actually assemble it, you're like, oh, it works because, the other arm is that sort of color. So,
yeah.
Well, that's what I was actually been thinking, man. Is like I'm sure vomiting droids could attest to it. I'm sure you could attest to it. There's times that like when B's asking, "Did you mean to do it?" You're like, it's a yes and no because you have a vision in your brain that you really couldn't put your finger on, but you picked those two colors for a reason. You marbled them for a reason, and yet even when you pull it out, for some reason, even though you had no perfect example of what you were hoping it would look like, you could pull it out and either it worked or it didn't. You might look at it and go, I don't like the way this looked. And somebody beside you who had no clue what your like vision was or what you're kind of looking for, they might go, it's a sick marble. And you're like, yeah, but I'm going to do those two colors again. Because it's almost like you have an idea and you might not even know what the idea is, but you know how you don't want them to look.
Exactly. Yeah, it's much easier to say that's not what I wanted rather than that's sort of what I wanted. And sometimes it can take a while like to really appreciate like actually this is a good example. This is a Mummy Stalker MK2. This was like I think maybe like the test cast and just how it sort of fell where like that shoulder guard just sort of is blue and then the blue didn't really impact the black down there. So it actually looked like the shoulder guard.
Gorgeous.
And then it just so happened that the other shoulder, kind of the black took over, then the rest of the arm was pretty much solid blue. And I think at first I was like, I didn't want that. I wanted some more blue in the black and black in the blue and that kind of thing. And even like the top of the helmet, like, so the helmet's like blue, but then once it hits the face, it's kind of like all gray. Actually looks sick. I've hung on to this guy. It's that kind of like gray, but then the black's coming through to make it look like he's all like all gross and that kind of thing. But yeah, initially when I kind of poured it, I just didn't like it. I think the reason I hung on to it because it was the first cast and I was like, this could come in handy one day if I wanted to make more or look good with another head in it. But it's not until it's sort of sitting on my desk and I've actually looked at it and been like, holy shit, that actually does look really good. And it's taken years for me to actually kind of, I guess, appreciate it a bit more.
Yeah, that's a good one, dude. Light blue is I think as if I just look around the room, dude, light blue is not something that I see a whole lot of. But I do like that combo with the black on it too. That MK2, man, that motherfucker's feet, dude. That dude's he's got the smallest damn feet, bro.
Yes, and on the worst angle as well. Like it's feet are fucking hard, man. Like and that's something that I, for some reason, will never click in my brain is to like make something that has good size, solid feet because shit, man, it's really hard because you look at some reaction figures and they've got massive feet and they're all out of like proportion. I'm like, fuck that. I want like the feet to be kind of in proportion, but unfortunately, they're just fucking small. So Vladstrenaut's a really good example of terrible feet. This guy has terrible feet. They're kind of crooked. This was probably when I wasn't spending nearly as much time as I should have been on designs. And he's probably every one of them out there have 8 to 10 magnets in them. So if you've got this anywhere near other magnet figures, he's an absolute fiend for just going and just like,
oh yeah.
So sorry about that, B.
No, I just think it's funny, dude. I'm sitting here, I don't make shit. I'm over here talking about feet, and you're like, yeah, well, they're fucking hard to make, okay? I get it, man.
Nah, I keep referring to this project that I can't sort of show, but like they've got really tricky feet, and it's just that kind of I put so much like effort and stuff into making this and these really cool marbles, and then I fucking made the test cast and put it down and went, oh my god, it's not gonna fucking stand. Like, and there was really no way kind of around it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to build a base for every one of these figures now. Like I'm gonna have to cast some sort of base and magnetize it. I worked out I just needed to be a lot more careful sanding the feet off and stuff, but yeah, basically I've done it again. I fucked up. This thing has really small feet, and like the slightest gust of wind will send these figures crashing. But I think as long as I'm careful when I'm sanding the feet, it's just that like when you've got a test cast, you're just so excited, you want to see it all like together, you just completely fuck up the magnets. So it's always good to never sell your test cast because it's usually battered as fuck.
You know, one thing that you mentioned, dude, that just, you know, going back to not knowing shit about making anything, but when you were talking about the mold and the mold being off a little bit and how that's going to determine kind of how the resin sets in there. Fuck, man. I didn't even think about that. And that's probably something that you went through a bunch of trial and error, right? You probably did one that was fucked up and you're like, man, how the hell did that happen? You know, and then, man, that's
the
crazy.
vent tree sounds like a bitch to me, but then consider also a lot of you dudes are using elastic bands. So if you're using the elastic band method, that might even obscure the mold if your registrations aren't close and tight in. And then also we know that there's like a tip that exists out there to help with bubbles in toes and hands. Angle the mold, which it's almost like then like a necessary of two evils. It's kind of like, do I want to get all clean feet and hands? Do I want to be able to get perfectly clean gradient lines? I'm going to clean fingers and feet.
Yeah, it's really tricky, that sort of stuff. And sometimes, you know, if you're like my angles, my molds are never kind of like perfect. There'll always be sort of like a bit of a tilt to it just because of how the silicon's set in the pressure pod, all that kind of bullshit. So even when you're like, you'll wrap it up and you'll get all your registrations right, instead of pouring the mold facing that way, you'll face it the other way. So then again, the angles are all sort of back off again. So that it's really tricky, especially if you work like me and not a lot, but I've seen a few resin artists where your resin pouring station is just like this mountain of just like cured like resin that you just haven't cleaned off, or so that's obviously not a flat surface, so that completely affects everything. So but I'm trying to be really take it slower, and I think once you kind of take it slower and actually mark your molds of like, you know, it needs to be facing this way or that way is a very simple thing to do, but you know, it escapes me at the best of times. So
dude, there's a great question in the from Baby BOD. Have you ever made a toy and found out that someone else already made something so similar it stops you and you reconsider another independent person? I've actually heard it both ways, where some people are like, yeah, I know, and I don't really care. And other people where if it even sniffs the same look or feel, they're like, nope, project not happening, off the table. Nope, never want to see it again. What's your take on that?
Look, it hasn't happened heaps. So getting the drives. There's definitely one instance of it happening a couple of years ago. And I think Crumbs will probably remember this. And I'm not sure how much, I don't want to go into too much sort of great detail. But it was whilst I was like working through making the stalkers. So we had Frankenstalker, Mummy Stalker, obviously all based on the creatures of you know, Universal monsters. So, and the creature one was like going to come up next, and I don't think I'd started actually physically making it, but I'd had ideas of the parts I wanted to use. I wanted to use a snow trooper, head and torso. I don't think I'd quite gotten onto the limbs and shit like that, but it was starting to bubble away. I think I'd only just finished the MK2, so yeah. And then and this is, it's flattering, but it was also a little bit tricky at the same time. So an artist in the scene kind of did a bit of a inspired by or version of this particular stalker that I had lined up, and it kind of, I think he might have even used a similar part that I was going to use, and that probably made it a bit more real of like, shit, I really got to go back to the drawing board and completely start from scratch. Like, and that was a coincidence. There was no kind of like, I wasn't hinting on lives, or I wasn't sort of making posts and I'm going to make this. It was just the dude had the parts and he made the figure and that kind of thing. And that probably, which is actually kind of weird. So that happened, and I never made a creature stalker because I was like, this artist has already kind of made it, and shit just started to go off in a different direction. Patreon started to happen and that kind of thing. And then but the actual part that I was using was going to be like Creature from the Black Lagoon. So I was going to be Creature Stalker, which probably allowed me to actually circle back around to making using the creature head for the DKE. So the maintenance Spy, whatever the stupidest name, but
Spy.
fun story. So it sort of circled around to like kind of having that, and he was that character was never going to be the creature kind of stalker, but he would maybe be the creature stalker before he became the creature stalker. He could be like the fucking before he became a superhero, he was that sort of thing. So, but that also kind of brings us back around to, and you know, I'm going to be really open about this. And Dov messaged me when I said, hey, I'm going to make this figure for DKE. Dov messaged me and said, hey, Killer Bootlegs actually did a design. Now, yeah, he did. He made him. He's like, he did a design where he had the creature head and it was basically Bosk limbs. And then I think the hands and the feet were obviously creature feet. So it was Bosk and creature.
We talked about this last week, actually.
Yeah,
I'm like 90% certain we like grazed over it. Like a couple cows just kind of chewing our way through.
No, I'll be straight up. Because nothing sort of bad happened out of it either. And it was a great opportunity to kind of meet Killer Bootlegs, I guess, in the DMs and kind of be like, oh, hey, man. So Dov basically said, hey, Killer made this figure. Maybe before going too far into the project, maybe just check and see if Killer sort of has any similarities. So I think I used a Bosk torso and a creature head, but the limbs were like Scout Trooper limbs, I'm pretty sure. So there was a couple of the same parts, but it wasn't the same kind of concept. And yeah, I messaged Killer and he was like, fuck yeah, man, go for it. Like, I don't care. And I was like, cool. Because I was probably going to do it anyway because I didn't have anything else to do, and I'd already sold it to my own brain. So I was like, it's going to do it anyway, just whether it be with DKE or whether it would just be in my store. So it was
that's
kind
the
of
spirit,
funny.
man. That's the spirit. Just fucking do it, bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's
bro. It's much easier to ask for fucking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know. Anyways.
So, yeah, so that was a funny kind of little trajectory of like it being sort of a thing that I was going to make that someone else kind of made. Then it sort of transformed into something else. And then someone else was like, hey, someone else has already done that. So you just want to check in. That was probably the most obvious and kind of strange example. But generally, I would just fucking do it. Like, obviously, a lot of my sunken head guys are just completely, you know, ripping off Healy made. And never did I have a thought of like, should I do this? No, fuck yeah, I'm going to do it because a lot of my favorite Star Wars characters that have been designed and figures have come out also have a similar thing. And I'm pretty sure Healy May didn't come up with fucking some of the Knights of the Old Republic characters and shit in the video game. So it's like, he's not the first dude to kind of have a cool mask guy like that. So that's just how I saw it. But also definitely heavily inspired by him. But it was also, I really didn't give too much thought about stepping on his toes because, it's a pretty broad kind of thing. I don't know if he feels the same. He probably thinks I'm a bit of a twat, but because I've really kind of squeezed it, but definitely sort of eased off. And Bosk is the most recent one that has the sunken heads, but also trying to get out of that shit because you try something different. Like it gets a bit repetitive after a while, even though you can do some cool stuff. But if everyone's like, oh, it looks like Healy made, you kind of get a little bit sick of hearing that shit as well.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, see,
this is supposed to be a collection tour, but dude, you've done minis, a whole series of a bunch of little Keshi like style minis. You've done a whole series of like those tiny little driver guys, including one that ended up in the inside of a burger for a vinyl. Some in the large form, some in a small form. You've done the action figure things where you've got the 5 points of articulation with the head sunken in. But almost every single one of those figures, you've also done a figure form of it in like the original standing form as well. So I mean, like you're flexing it all, dude. Like, and then some painted figures, some marbled figures, some blank figures. Like, it's not as though like there's a territory you haven't dabbled yet, besides vinyl, really.
Pretty much, you know. Yeah, and I think if I was to ever do vinyl, it would be like the vinyl action figure stuff, like, you know, that's the only way I would get in, and that's for one major reason is I do not want to learn how to airbrush paint because that looks really hard in its whole thing. And I feel like if you're gonna do a vinyl run or something like that, you basically got to be good at sort of painting or have really good connections and be able to kind of eat some of your costs by getting other people to paint them and sell them and all that sort of stuff. Whereas action figures in-house, all made, that's cool. But when you're kind of starting to be like, actually, I don't have the space in my brain to learn how to to airbrush. Plus, going into a scene like that with how it is, it can be maybe not as forgiving as the resin scene in certain kind of areas and aspects. I'm not making any generalizations, but that's just kind of the reality. But at the same time, I draw when I see Bloody Plague Earth, putting these pieces out with these crazy gradients of all these different like fluoro colors, and then it makes me go, shit, man. And I know he's doing a lot of sort of airbrushing and stuff, but it's not to the extent where it's this really kind of fine, crazy, and just like the colors and the see-through and that vinyl, that kind of makes me go, oh, actually like. So for instance, this is something that I've toyed with, is like to have the tussle characters that kind of have, they've got the big hands, big head, small bodies, small feet, that sort of thing. To kind of see these dudes to be in like a Sofubi kind of like scale, because the Sofubi vinyl, I get it wrong, but whatever. How the scales are kind of, big heads, little kind of legs, fat torsos, kind of lends itself pretty cool to like how these guys are. So what would be really cool, and I'd like to do it with one particular character, just because he's got his brain hanging out, is like shit. I think that would be really cool as like a vinyl. I don't know why him in particular, but probably mainly just because he's got the brains.
I agree, but also I think it might be because we have seen things like Dubois art that would push our brains into already thinking of that form in a vinyl.
Yeah.
But it's totally different. Like, not to say that one would be like the other, just I think it's that stance, that vibe.
Yeah, they're always a bit chunky kind of thing, which is cool. But yeah, like it's an area I would go into with great caution and just kind of really, and that is not a cheap thing to do. You're relying on factories, molds, international, fucking a lot of stuff. So that's pretty daunting, and a lot of appreciation that dudes that just actually do it, and it's a really hard thing, and there's so many things that can go horribly, horribly wrong, and you hear some really bad stories of things happening, but it's really cool. You sort of hear those stories where people still pushing through and still getting the pieces out there. And then, I loved seeing like Barbarian Rages like vinyl recently, how it sort of, started off as like a kind of plain vinyl, and there was sort of little decal things. And now he's got like this fucking battle armor and shit. And I was like, that's sick. And that's just like a slick kind of pretty sort of like slick form, but like what he's adding to it just kind of like elevates it, and it makes it completely something else. So I really like that side of the vinyl, that accessorizing and that, but definitely like the painting and the airbrushing, I feel like I couldn't go near it. And I'd love to get vinyls like marbled and stuff like that, but I feel like the airbrushing is such a part of that culture as well, that I couldn't like make a vinyl and not get it airbrushed, or try and like paint it by hand. It would just look whack.
But the resin stuff, if you kind of hit it there with the Barbarian Rage and the armor, like Ewing has like the battle armor for his like dinos and his buddies as well. Garbage Toys actually will often do like different resin up stuff as well. Because once you have those initial vinyls coming in, it is kind of like, well, heck, like if I know how to make a mold and cast something up in resin, I can just do an epoxy sculpted accessory for it, cast it up. And then you did actually kind of nail it. Like, it's funny to me that, yes, the airbrushing, if you actually look at like some of like the like dudes who are like pros, it's almost like playing the bass, right? A killer airbrusher can do like a fucking wild job, and then we're starting to see some of the resin dudes are almost bringing that marbling that they would do in a pour. We're almost seeing that where they're kind of like, no, I want it to look like a poured resin piece almost, in on clear resin, but in a vinyl. So just so much influence right now, man, coming from all directions. It's kind of sick, but I don't blame you from saying like, well, I would approach it with a lot of caution. And then the investment side of it, the money side of it being a huge one, man. Like, even the numbers and the metrics I know, when I'm usually quoting somebody like, probably about $7,000, we're looking at almost 2-3 years ago. I might as well start telling people about 10-11 grand.
Yeah. And it's and the ultimate fear of like when you do something like that and you're 100 and not one of them fucking sell, and you're kind of like, what am I going to do? And I think what's actually really cool is when you see, I'm not saying this happens a lot, but there's that, how people just kind of be like, all right, we've got this form, and how different they can make it, whether it's different accessories, different like little parts, different paint jobs. That's really cool. And I think people like Retro Band does it really well. What a great segue, guys. Retro Band does it really well. So, this is the only one I've got. I feel like I bought this when I was drunk, which is pretty common when I was buying toys a year or two ago. But I think it was on like New Year's, and I remember sitting in the taxi or the Uber, like looking on my phone, being like, no way, it was like 80 USD or something. And I was like, wait a minute, that seems like really cheap. And I just like went for it, and I woke up the next day, instead of having that, oh no, I was so happy the next morning. I was so hungover, but I was so happy to be kind of like, I fucking got one. However, I have not questions, but I make myself look like a bit of a dumbass. So obviously a retro band piece. It's produced by Unbox Industries, so it's got little stamps. But there's also Who Goes There. I don't know what Who Goes There is. Seems like some sort of spooky, cool shit. I don't know if that's an artist. I don't know if that's who painted these. I'm really showing my dumbness, but I was just fucking stoked to have like a retro band piece in the collection, because like between his like horror heads and what really I love about retro band is he's got that rotor casting machine where he does his own rotor casting. That's so exciting and so jealous. And I feel like, and those machines just do not exist anymore. I remember seeing him on, was it maybe Lab Monkey Show or something, explaining how impossible they are to find if you need parts.
Tracked one down and now has one of those old vintage fucking like roto casting machines, basically.
Yeah, he'll occasionally show those like pics of it, and there was one recently, like the clearance of the mold, like in the thing, and just like seeing the machine being like, surely that they're still around. How do we get this, guys? How do we fucking do this? So knowing that he actually has that level of like in-house production, that he can use smooth on 45D and basically make fucking, you know, it's obviously not vinyl, but you know, it's kind of close. Like it's a bit softer and stuff, but shit, I'd be smashing that shit out if I could. And just his sculpting and everything like that. I love retro band stuff. And I guess I always knew him as more of a horror heads and vinyl kind of guy, and not realizing how long he'd been in the game and how he kind of transitioned from that sort of 3.75 carded figure stuff. And over time it's kind of morphed into more of the vinyl and the horror heads and the minis as well. Huge factor in probably me making tussle characters was retro band's little melty dudes. I should know their names, but I just don't. So yeah, I really love this piece, and it was just a good price, and I think that's really good because toys can be expensive, vinyl can be expensive, and something for this size is really good, and it should be expensive because they're fucking hard to make, and it's a long, expensive process. So I'm not shitting on that, but I think it's awesome when you can really feel like you get a deal and still be like, yes, because I still haven't been able to get another retro band thing since. I occasionally look and regularly miss the drops or just get priced out, but yeah, just a fucking rad artist. I think we're nearly through everything here, guys, but I do have one bunch more that I'll show you. It's because
let's see that epoch card back there.
I saw this guy. Oh, I just stepped on my dog. Sorry.
I don't know about you, but I heard I stepped on my dong, so I wasn't expecting the apology to come right after that.
Sorry,
just dragging on the floor behind me. Excuse me.
All right, allow me to whip this out. Get these. So I was watching Bootleg Overdose the other day with Eddie and Drew and Kerfloss.
You have them bagged still? You're a menace. I have them
bagged still because I didn't have anywhere to put them. So I was like, I'm going to keep them bagged until I've got a good spot to put them.
At least they're safe if they're bagged.
And they're very safe. So I remember when Kerfloss first kind of got onto the scene and he was making his number 2, might have even been before that, just learning and practicing shit like we all kind of were. And I can't remember if he shared the picture or if we were just messaging at the time, but he showed me a photo of these bounty buddies, and it was just like, he was like, yeah, I'll get them like casted up one day. And I was like, what one day? Why aren't you like working on them all like right now? These are fucking unreal. And it wasn't like, oh, I've got one, but I still need to make it was like he had them all just sitting there. And it's just like, what are you doing?
He could make 100 more of those and he would never meet the demand.
Yeah, these were, I'm so happy that I finally got them, because he was sort of like, yeah, I'll do a run. And then I think I missed the first run. And then the second one, I was lucky enough to get, but it was just that like, and this is, again, I'm not shitting on Kerfloss. It was just like, felt like from when I first saw them to when I actually was able to get my hands on them, it just felt like such a long time. And it just looked like such gold to me that was like, dude, how are you not producing these on a mass scale? Because they look so fucking rad. But yeah,
you know what's cool about those bounty buddies too, man, is when those first came out. So those were in the background of some of his sculpting sessions that he used to do, and people started asking about like, hey, what the hell was that in the background? And so then I remember he made a post saying like, hey, people have been asking about these, in the background, and I think I'm going to cast them up one day. And but I said the same thing, dude. Like, those are freaking phenomenal. I couldn't believe that those hadn't been made yet. What was really cool about Bootleg Overdose last week is he was talking about them, and they started kicking around the idea, if you made those things in vinyl, whoo, you know what I mean, bro? Like, wow. I wouldn't worry about not selling out of any one of those. But the fact that they're original sculpts, the scale of those is amazing. You know what I mean? They're super chunky, but dude, they're phenomenal, dude. I love those. I don't think mine came bagged.
I'm sorry, this was second run.
Second run?
I think so. I think these were around. These might have been around decon time as well. I feel like I've had these for a while, but yeah, I didn't. I'm first run, I'm pretty sure, and then I think he did another run, so it might have been. That might be why. But yeah, when I was watching the same stream at the same time, and then when like, that'd be cool in vinyl, I was like, why don't we already have them in vinyl, guys?
Imagine if they were jointed in the mid section, so there was no seam at the bottom, no seam at the top. Like, you could finger pupper them, but imagine how much even more dope it'd be to do that as a 2-part vinyl.
Yeah, it'd be so sick.
I mean, you could head swap.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love these guys, but could not bust them out of the bag until I had a really good place to set them up and give them their dues, because they're sick pieces, and just like the card as well, just super clean, little sorry, what are they? Yeah, the photos of the original sculpts on the back, just really clean, fucking no like overthought, just slick as fuck. So
and a great name too, right? I remember when I first heard, I heard Bounty Buddies, and I'm just like, oh, is that a thing? What's Bounty Buddies? I started Googling what Bounty Buddies, you know what I mean? Like, where can I find these things? And I'm just like, what a great name for those two.
Yeah, just so simple, just so slick, just everything. Yeah, so I love these dudes. I can't wait to actually give them their own space and their own spot to be appreciated and fucking gawked at.
See, dude, the tiers, the plexi, the tiers are perfect for those, man.
I reckon.
Personally, I just take screws. I just send screws up through the shelf, and then I just twist the piece down on the screw until it's at the height that I want it. And I just get different sized screws depending. And drywall screws are the best. They're really pointy and sharp. Things just fucking send down that.
Gypsum board.
There you go.
Screws.
All right, I'm gonna add these guys in because I'd feel like an asshole if I didn't.
That's the hardest part about showcasing just select pieces. Oh, the vomit.
Yeah. I think we did a trade ages ago. And another great example, and I could sit on a stream with Vomit around how he makes his things and how he does it. I still don't understand it. Like, and it's not because he's bad at explaining it. It's just because I'm bad at understanding how he does it and what he's talking about. And how his use of like nails and clay and angles and how he gets stuff. And it's just like, yeah, you can explain it to me like so many times. I'm still not going to get it. And I love that I don't get it, because if I get it, I'll try and do it. And I've never tried to do something that looks like this. I've tried to work it out in my brain if I could, and I'm just like, just leave it to Vomit, because you've got no business doing this kind of shit if you're not prepared. Like, you can't really see, but there's like I think there's a layer face buried in there, which is rare.
3 faces.
Yeah, 3 faces, and just how the chin's like busting through that part of like the Ewok sort of face, and even this one, just that kind of like a little bit off center, where it's sort of like, the like a cracked kind of face, and then in there, you can't see shit. There's like a layer face that's deep in there, but kind of at an angle as well. So it's that sort of, it's enough out of proportion where it's kind of creepy when you look at it up close. It's not like there's a face just sort of where it should be. It's kind of like a weird angle. So I love noticing those little sort of details where whether they're intentional or not, but it just kind of it makes it more than just a kind of a face in a face. Like it just kind of gives it once you've got that weird angle, that unnatural kind of weirdness, makes it so good. So I'm really stoked to have a couple of these. I think I might have another one somewhere as well. But yeah, and knowing again, these do not hang around when Vomit's doing the drop on the rare occasion that he does. I wouldn't have. I basically don't get a look in because they're just gone, which is awesome for him. It's terrible for me, but no, I'm really stoked to have these guys, and I had to show them off. He's someone that I mentioned when people ask about who you like and sort of what work blows you away. It's always Vomiting Droids and just how humble the dude is as well, and how he kind of makes his toys is not how anyone else in the scene makes their toys. We've all got some pretty crazy processes, but I think a lot of the time we're kind of doing pretty similar shit. But Vomit is not similar shit to anyone, and no one's doing similar shit to Vomit. So
I got a picture one night of him. He had something dangling off of like the workbench, and there was like a cup below it. And he was like, "I gotta find a different way of doing this." And he had like all this shit like clinging and holding on to it as it was just dripping stuff into a cup. And you're like, "Okay." And same, he tries to explain it, and you're like,
you know, and he's a real jerk in real life. I've hung out with him multiple times, and it's a treacherous, horrible time every time. You know, that's just who he is, man.
He sold me hot
definitely
sauce
seems
with
like a complete
X-Lax in it.
He's a gem, dude. I love that guy, and you're right, man. His work is crazy, dude. I mean, I know there's a couple people that have, and I think when he was on our show, Crumbs, right? Didn't he just openly say, like, well, this is how I do it? And that's kind of what I was getting at. Just because you know the process and you know how to do it doesn't mean you can do it. Or you might be able to do a version of it. It's probably not going to be the same. And that's kind of when we got into the whole gatekeeping thing. Like, well, even if you did say it, that doesn't mean that someone can duplicate it. That means that they can do it, but it's not going to be the same, you know? So...
No, he's good. I was actually messaging him last night about some mold making stuff, which is really cool. And he is someone that's probably yes, super early on. I think actually I'll tell you this, I don't know if Vomit's in the room. When I first saw his stuff, I was like, the fuck is this guy? Like I was a bit like straight away intimidated by that kind of work. And he'd only had like maybe 2 figures and they were real gooey and stuff. And I was just like, sup, like just wasn't. And then eventually realized he was such a nice dude. So that period where I was like, it was like maybe 2 weeks. And then I think we maybe messaged and was like, holy shit, like you're kind of like me. We're just sort of getting into this together and we don't really know what we're doing. But yeah, initially it was like, it's doing some fucking crazy stuff. And I wanted to try
pretentious bastard.
Yeah. I wanted to sort of get in how he was doing and then realize his processes were just nuts. Like standing there for like 10, 15 minutes a nail just so something kind of cures. So then you can just eventually walk away. Like that's dedication, guys. That's fucking patience and dedication.
Now, Tiddy, man, we've had you on for about 2.5 hours. I'm going to force you real quick to give us a rundown of the collection before we kick you the heck out of here, because you have a lot more than we've seen tonight.
Yeah, cool. So we've got some Luke Welsh sculpts, Pendragons. Pendragons I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got one on a card. He's not on a card. Damn, I'll show you my first one. First ever toy that we got was Hello Radical creature from the Black Planet. Was it that one or something?
Yeah, from the Black Planet. But straight up, that was one of your first bootleg toys you ever acquired?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the first one. That was the first one first one I received, but I'm pretty sure Hello was like my first purchase. Which was probably followed closely by maybe Healy Maid or Pendragon. We've got some Trash Can Monster.
Such a fun figure, man.
Love that one. Dope. I think we all have one of those.
Good.
Oh, that's right. I also got a oh shit. About
to start a falling herd.
Start Dominoes. Also had a that also came with the one that I got from Hella. So
nice.
so
Winter Soldier.
We've got some Strafe 7, we've got a Diver, we've got a couple of remind me of what this guy is it Toyz? Cosmo Toys?
Damn, yeah, that's one of the Cosmos. Dude, I haven't seen a Cosmo not. Damn. That he's hard to get, man.
Got a couple of Has No Talents, which is pretty cool. I've only got 3 or 4.
Is that a vacuum formed?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, these are all going down. I'm gonna have to pack these up later. And then got like the
so
Macquarie concept Chrome Darth Vader. I fucking love this figure. That's really cool. I don't know. Actually, let's get some light on it. I don't know how Has No Talent does this stuff, but yeah, I remember getting this and just loved it. I love the Macquarie style, and just like that like gunmetal kind of chrome look, and they're just fucking perfect. So that's probably that. Yeah, let's give that a bit of a grail status as well. I've also got a bunch of Healy maids. We've got some Xeno Demon toys. I know you could just put one
an
up
oldie classic.
Actually can't get them out. I'm really sorry. There's going to be a
no, dude. Please don't start an avalanche on our record.
I'm not a huge Scream fan, but I had to get some of like Meadow Knight's little sort of minis.
The game pieces for that new.
Yeah,
they're a killer sculptor, man.
Yeah, she's really, really cool. She was like working on a big Safubi thing and all that sort of stuff. We've got some Goblin Mob, got these little things that came in like little cases. They're vinyl. Or are they vinyl or resin?
Yeah.
He did both waves, so it's hard to know. Those look like they're glowing like a motherfucker, though. So I'm wondering if they're the vinyls. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the yellow one glows. I don't know if the orange one does. What else have we got? Oh, actually, this is pretty cool. This came over with. Actually, we'll need some light on this. This is from One Trick. And I will show you guys one last grail that I didn't have with my stuff before.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so this was from
There he is.
Oh, it's got my name on it. That's nice. That came from the bootleg market that Toys on Tap did. I don't have the hands, but I thought that was really, really nice.
That's gorgeous, man.
Not that I have heaps of carded bootlegs, but I'm going to show you guys one last grail because this slipped.
Did everything just die there?
The figure didn't. Oh, it was okay.
Your big dong knocked the shelf?
It was only the Raiders. I'll show this. So this was lucky I didn't actually drop the piece. Guess who's cleaning up later? The Terrible Toy Works.
Ooh.
Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah.
So I have 2 of these. I only grabbed one because everything just avalanched. But this Terrible Toy Works is just absolutely off his chops. He was probably another artist, and when he kind of started posting stuff, I was like, so, like, who's this dude? Like, he's really good. And like, I don't know who you are, where you've come from. There was a good 6 months where I was convinced that Terrible Toy Works was Killer Bootlegs Incognito kind of thing, making up different complete range of toys. I have lots of theories around things that don't make sense, but anyway, and then realized that John Henry's just a fucking really, really nice guy. And we got chatting and he was just able to nail the aesthetic that I really wanted to go for, that old school horror aesthetic. And not only did he kind of have like the toy kind of thing, but the branding for his pieces, the photos, everything is completely on brand. And just the amount of lights and smoke that he uses for his photo shoots, like I can barely put up an extra light, let alone, I don't know how he does what he does. And he's showed me his like setup, and it's like in Beetlejuice, but there's that little town of things. It's like a full diorama. Anyway, it's crazy. So I do not want to miss out on showing off this Spectre because it comes with the base. And anyone that's ever bought some Terrible Toy Works stuff knows that this stuff comes packaged like you've never seen anything packaged before, like a full wooden box, hinges, spray paint, signed, stenciled. Even like the accessories, he sent me over some like some spare skulls to kind of use in my toys, and even the things that he'd put the spare parts in with like wrapped up in like nice little purple packages with a bow. And I was like, dude, I put my shit in a gram bag and put it in people's things. You've actually sat there and like done a nice bow in like this beautiful purple paper. Insane. And the figures are, you know, they're fragile, so they've actually got to be packed really well. And luckily, he's one of the dudes that packs his figures so well, where room for like movement and jiggling or breakage is vastly reduced. So, and, you know, he comes in with like the base and everything, and
That's an astoundingly gorgeous colorway on that one, man.
Yeah, dude, the mint, love that.
The mint, that is that a is it okay? The base, is it so navy that it looks almost purple?
Yeah, so I don't actually know if this is. Yeah, so it's marbled, so you can sort of see on the bottom. It might not show up too much. So it's like marbled blue,
Beautiful.
like a kind of pretty heavy blue, and then like a purple. So it's just enough to kind of, yeah, you get those angles. And obviously he's got some glitter in there as well. So it's enough to kind of make the
seeing that shim.
Yeah, just a bit more like uneven and a bit more like rocky or a bit mossy kind of thing. So, and how many attempts it would have taken him to kind of get the figures to come out this clean, without bubbles, without, you know, your skeleton popping out the bit of the shoulder, like getting all that shit lined up, would take a number of attempts to get these. So, yeah, and again, another moment of like, how the fuck did you get that head in there? How did you get the face in there? But then the hood to be kind of like, and yeah, he just has magic tricks that he makes this shit work. But yeah, double casting is awesome, but man, to make it is really, really hard. And to have it just so clean and not have it look like there's this tiny skeleton in this big form, like it's really.
There's movement in the sculpt. The way like those knees always end up coming at the track. Like that's astounding to me, man. And then the fact that he ends up doing things in so many different parts, so that way you can mash things up with between the hands and the faces and the internal with the externals and the brilliant.
Yeah. Again, another artist that really takes the time, and to, much like sort of Lab Monkey, where the way that my kind of brain would work would be kind of not thinking enough about how do we get that hand to come out of there. I'd constantly be trying to cast something that is one piece, but breaking things down into separate pieces, making smaller molds, which, you know, it's probably a lot more finicky, but what you can actually get at the other end is having like separate parts that kind of go on. It makes it look so much more like a real fucking, like a real toy, but like it just works. And once you kind of crack that code, how you can kind of trick, you know, sometimes it's about optical illusions and just sort of like tricking people's fucking eye over how something's done. And it's often a really simple answer, but you're too fixated on how cool it is that nothing can make sense in the world. So yeah, I love these. Love these dudes.
Common sense is common.
How the feet are just kind of dangling, how they're just kind of there. They're not kind of like, you know, out like that. They're actually dangling like they should be. Something that I wouldn't have realized until I'd like cast it up, would have been like, oh no, the feet. But like that's already in this dude's head. So
dude. And then the flat bottom, right, kind of gives it a ground effect, like he's kind of hovering on the ground there. But I think there's a lot to what you said there too, Crumbs, the bend in the knees, man. I know that Ocular Rhombus just put a figure in his shop today. It's kind of like a wrapped mummy, but I love it because it's got bent knees and it puts a lot of motion and a lot of action in it, you know, with it still just being a static figure. That's wild, man. Also, going back to the packaging, dude, isn't it crazy how everything was? I'm sure yours was the same. It's like black on black on black on black, right? Like, and it's not like any bullshit, right? It's like that thick paper, and then it's like black wrapping with like a dark purple, like you said, tie on it, and then a black and purple card, and you're just like, dude, it's a fucking event opening that package, dude. Straight up, man. Yeah, dude.
I hate packing shit, and like the amount of effort and love that's actually gone into this, and to know that this happens with every single piece that he sends out, is nuts. Is just like, and it elevates the experience of getting the toy. Like I said, it's like it's like a pasta parcel where you sit there and you're just like unwrapping it and each piece, and you don't know what you're unwrapping because there'll be like 5 different kind of parts, and you're like, I wonder what's in here, rather than just kind of getting like a fucking toy wrapped in bubble wrap, which is basically what I do. But yeah, it was really exciting. You actually remember unwrapping a terrible Toyz because there's
absolutely. And I think that probably plays into the price too, right? Like we're talking probably top of the market for a piece like that. But then you get it, and then it kind of starts to make sense where you're like, well, shit, not only are they doing all this, like Crumb said, there's the box, you know, and then everything else that goes into it. And then you throw the shipping on there on top of that. And you know, it kind of starts to make sense why it demands that tag. But again, I think it's worth it, man. You know, it is.
I will say the one thing is if ever somebody sees me doing an unboxing and you have very extravagantly packed things, that causes my mouse brain to do this. So if you're expecting ever that you're kind of like, I gave Hums this thing and I was hoping he would like lick it, stiff up in his nose, and then regurgitate it, but he didn't. Sometimes it might be because I'm so absolutely terrified of breaking the thing that's in there that I'm not gonna just rip it out of a bag. When a Tiddy comes in a satchel and I literally know I can grab it at the top, peel it off like the sole of a shoe, and just yeah. But when I'm carefully opening something and I'm like, oh shit, please don't break. I'm pretty sure even B warned me because B was like, hey, your terrible toy works. It's not like it's fragile, but be careful. So I'm like, yeah, okay.
There's something in there that could break. Oh man, those are great pieces though, man.
Astounding craftsmanship.
Yeah, look, I actually can't really it's up here. I can't really access my Safubi shelf, but I don't know if you guys can even see it.
Dude, I'm just gonna say real quick, Sam, I love that pimp ass jogging suit jacket you have hanging up every time you walk by. Dude, the colors on that thing are so fresh, bro. I've seen you wear that before. I'm like, you're such a G. Dude, look at that thing.
Fresh style, man. Always fresh as that.
Yes.
Is that velvet?
That's my Del Boca Vista tracksuit. This is where when I like retire to Florida, even though it's going to be so hot in Boca. This is what I'm going to be wearing all day, every day.
Dude, and the Seinfeld drop on top of that. Look at you, man. Look at you.
I think that was some of my like comfort leisure wear throughout like COVID, and then COVID ended and Lisa's just like, you're not actually going to be wearing that out. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm wearing this to work. Like, what's up? And then
she can't tell me that it doesn't feel good to just rub your cheek on that, man. That looks like good material. I'd cuddle up on the couch with that. Give me a hot cocoa, a little nitty.
Good shit. But yeah, there's many other pieces that I'd love to show, but there's also just way too many. So they're definitely coming. Got to be some highlights there, and there'll be grails in future of like what I fucking come back on and be like, guess what I got, guys? I paid $500 and I got me a bog dweller, and I'm so indifferent.
You're gonna leave and you're gonna look at yourself and be like, oh fuck, that grail. You're gonna send off 10 million DMs tonight being like, I'm so sorry, man. Your piece is a grail too, I swear. I was limited. The boys are assholes. They only gave me 3 hours. I wanted 8.
That's it.
There's no way, dude. I mean, in this scene, dude, there's no way to even limit it to 10. I was telling Crumbs, like when we did ours, I'm like, but let's be honest, bro. Like we could have done probably 30 pieces a piece, and that still wouldn't have been enough. We would have been like, but then there's this one too. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like there's too much good stuff out there, man.
You go through your grails, and you're like, these are the ones I personally put over here because they're grail. But then even then, you're looking at your regular collection, being like, oh fuck, that's so and so's first cast that they threw in. Oh crap, that's a 1-of-1 epoxy sculpt that somebody made. You know, like you suddenly are kind of like, crap. Yeah, these are in different places, but they still. Yeah, if you really got down to the bottom of it, do you own a toy on your shelf that like isn't a grail? Because I know everybody's got a box of secrets they keep things in before they can get them out into the world if they don't want it on their shelves. So it's
actually, I've got a great one. I've got a great one, which I'm not going to show, but it's one figure that at some point for a good probably 6 months, it was a grail status. And now I'm just tempted to throw it in the bin. Something I got off eBay. The only toy that I've ever bought off eBay. I could probably flip it, but it would be very obvious who I am and why I'm selling it. And I wouldn't generally flip bootleg toys, but I would definitely do it. I'm not going to tell you what it is though, because
I already put it together in my brain. Neat. I'm not going to say shit either, but yeah, my brain pieced it together as well. I was there that night. Neat.
I don't want to be in a position to put myself on the spot, but yeah, there's absolutely sorry, I needed to get my charger. Absolutely, I have a piece that if I hadn't paid over like $100 or $130 for it, I probably would have just thrown it in the bin. But then if I was going to do that, I'd also probably want to make a statement of like why I'm throwing it in the bin. And then that's just, I'm not a douchebag like that. So, but yeah, there's definitely one piece in particular that I 100% regret buying. And I don't think I regret buying any other pieces, but this one, absolutely. And
I love how both B and I, we're apparently friendly, jovial dudes, but the moment you said, I think that's the only piece I, both our heads, what? Only one toy you regret? I love every toy I've ever bought ever. There's never been an issue with any toy I've ever had. I love them all. They're all great. And the makers that make them are always fantastic as well, and there's nothing wrong with any of them.
That's my terms and conditions, bitches. But it's there's definitely pieces that I've maybe been a little bit not as happy as when I purchased it as to when I received it. I think that's common. Oh no, sorry, it's not common, but it happens.
Let's be real. If you're spending a certain dollar point, unfortunately, when you get that, your expectations of how absolutely bonerific it's going to be are much higher. And so unfortunately, it's even almost unfair to certain makers, I would say, because if you're a maker that's pricing your work where we all argue makers should be pricing their work anyways, but then we get it and we're looking at it going, fuck, I just paid that for this. That can really make a difference. And then the reality is the longer it sits on your shelf, sometimes you can actually grow to love it. Sometimes it goes in a box and you keep pulling it out going, can I love you yet? Maybe another day. Right?
I'll never love this motherfucker that is sitting there, but it is. It's just that I've put way too much money in. Oh, not way too much money, but it's just sat there and I'm like, I actually don't know what to do with it. Maybe I'll send it to you guys and you can do a giveaway. Maybe no one will probably want it though, so it's fine. But yeah, actually that's probably what I'll do. I might chuck it in a box and send it to you guys, and then it's your responsibility. I know what Crumbs will do with it. I'll send it to you, Crumbs. Yeah. Anyway, back to it. So yeah, there's that sort of small regret thing, but for the vast majority of my figures, I fucking really like them, and they mightn't be what I pictured when I first bought it. And then some of them are great to appreciate. Very few have I grown to despise or not appreciate. So
Tiddy, before I kick you off, Baby BOD's got a question that I think is actually great. Most you've ever spent on a toy, they're saying that there was $1K for a 1 of 10. What would you say if you had to guess? And you don't have to tell us the piece, but what is probably the most? And because here's the fun part for all the American homies, please tell us in AUS, not in American dollars. Tell us probably what the most is you've paid in Australian dollars, because that's your currency, so it's equivalent to what bread and fucking pizza and all that would be with shipping.
I've got to do if I can recall how much this was, and it was priced in USD. Pretty sure this is it. Yeah, so for one piece, $280 AUD, Australian dollars, which is about 180 USD. So that it's a piece that I showed off tonight. I'm not going to say which one. I didn't have to pay shipping, but I probably ended up with however they kind of factor in their costs. Yeah, that was it was a Lab Monkey piece. Like, well, I'm not going to be like secretive.
Yeah.
Like, I fucking own it. Like I literally
knew.
But it
was a beautiful piece.
It was 100%
and worth it, right?
Yeah. And one side it was confronting, like it was that kind of like, damn. And then I was like, when are you ever going to have another opportunity to just completely snag this before anyone else even gets to see it? You're never going to have this opportunity again. Unless we do it next year and then I'll just buy another piece off him. But at the time it was kind of like, yeah, it's just got to be done and absolutely no regrets whatsoever. But yeah, so that was 280, and luckily because he'd sent it, there was no real postage cost to it. And then I think maybe behind that would be like a vinyl piece. I think the Pugaloo or maybe the Ophelia Toyz Sucker. I think that might, they're a good size. Unfortunately, it's too hard to get to at the moment. But again, that's not really if that's the toys we're talking about, but they're generally on the more expensive scale. But yeah, if we're talking bootleg action, artist made action figures, definitely 180 USD, which is 280 Australian. And yeah,
The sucker, man. You have exquisite taste, my friend. Those are great, dude. I love those. I'm actually I'm working on getting Ophelia on the show, hopefully in January. So that
Awesome.
should be cool, man. Yeah, they do fucking incredible work, man. Really, really cool stuff.
They're one person that would probably, like, if I was to do like a vinyl character, I'd be like, I'm sending it straight to and do like get them to do the paintwork, because they're totally got my palette, just with that ridiculously white mixture of so many different colors. But then obviously, you know, they've got a bit of restraint when they're kind of doing, but some of the wild shit they've been doing lately, it's just right up my alley. So
Bro, did you see that one piece that they just posted? It was a personal piece. It wasn't for sale, but it was like a cobra or a snake face or something with like a mask on it. And the paint that he did on that was just, it was unbelievable, dude. Unreal, man. Really cool shit.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
No, I didn't, it doesn't ring a bell.
No.
But yeah, like he's just nuts. And just that sculpt in and of itself is so cool. All the shit that you get with it, like the extra arm and the patches and the stickers. It's like, you know, you're not just getting like a vinyl in a bag. Like it comes with accessories, and that made it pretty exciting, because it wasn't a super cheap figure, but when I got it, it was definitely well worth what I sort of paid, like, because, you know, it comes in this awesome big bag and all this other stuff with it. Makes it a lot more, makes it better. And it's a big figure, like it's not small, like it's much bigger than this guy.
Yeah.
And it also feels good. I guess size, price, if it's bigger, it should be, if it's more expensive, it should be bigger. Not, that makes no sense, but
it just feels that way.
yeah, it just kind of feels
Capitalism
that way.
at its finest.
Yeah. Nothing worse than like spending $1,000 and you get like something in the mail that comes in that big, and you're like, yeah, money well spent, guys. I'm happy with me right now.
Yeah.
So
really cool 3-sticker set with those suckers too, man. It was like, if you have like the guy, and then it kind of transforming into the sucker, and then the sucker, but it's 3 separate stickers, but you line them up, and I'm just like, man, that's dope, dude. Really cool.
Just those little touches. Love it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Tiddy Bean, man, before we kick you the heck out of here, is there anything that we've maybe missed or you want to let us know?
Fuck, probably not. I'll think of like heaps of different shit after we go, but
I think we're gonna drag you back on after you move.
Yeah, actually, that's gonna be the plan. I will just do. I really can't be bothered doing a full post on IG. So those people watching, the Patreon is going to stay up. I'm just not going to be doing toy drops on it. I might occasionally put photos on there of like setting up the new space and that kind of shit, but it's not going to be an exciting space if it ever was. Mail drops might sort of come up again in future, but it's pretty too early to tell. But I probably should do a post on Instagram about that. But for those watching that give a shit, you can still join up to Patreon. It's still active. You will be charged for the first month, and then after that, all payments are paused. And that basically, if you sign up to the donation level, you'll get access to the whole backlog. So you'll get, it's like 500 plus posts. If you want to dig around in there and look at shit from the past 2.5 years.
And please clarify, because I know sometimes people have canceled their Patreons and they get confused for the month. Explain again for anybody who ends up deciding to join during this time, how your Patreon normally works, right? Because if you go to cancel at the end of the month or the beginning of the month. How should they be doing that in order to not fuck you?
It's super confusing, and so they charge you at the start of the month. So if you are in your last month, cancel it before it clocks over to the next month.
Bam.
But it's really hard. They kind of changed some of the rules where, so initially when I started it, Patreon would charge you the first of every month. And then they brought it in maybe 6 months ago where you can actually change subscription dates. So when someone signs up in the middle of the month, they're not going to be charged again until the middle of the month. Whereas the way my line works, and this is purely to keep it tight and how it works in my brain, is when someone signs up at the start of the month, boom, they got a figure for that month. People sign up at the end of the month. That's why I would only promote it at the start of the month initially. So it just keeps it on track easier for me. But it's also really confusing because they're like, Patreons, we're going to be charged for this month. And I was like, but it said they're going to be charged for last month at the start of last month. It's really confusing shit. And I'm not that great at looking into things. So yeah, but if anyone joins up, you can only join up to the donation tier anyway. All the other tiers have been unpublished. So, but yeah, best to sign up at the start of the month. Maybe if it comes back, I might change it to, you know, people get charged when they sign up. But that's going to get, when you're doing mail drops and trying to assign like who's signed up when for what month, it's really hard to keep track of if people are signing up halfway through the month and you've already made 10 figures for everyone else and you're kind of like, fuck, I'm gonna make like another one. It gets really confusing, you know. Yeah. So that's why I left it as people getting charged at the start of the month. But yeah, if anyone still wants to jump on, go for it. But there won't be too much new content coming for a while anyway.
Lots to sift through from the past.
There's tons of shit on there. Like I've never really gone back. There's so much like work in progress stuff. There's probably a lot of unfinished projects. But yeah, if anyone's looking for some inspiration or I don't know, just to sort of see what that whole platform was about and what was going on the whole time and what it might look like in future, yeah, give it a squiz.
I think it'll inspire some people who will maybe get a little glimpse of what they've been missing out on, man. It gives them a look. And admittedly, for anybody who's an artist who's been debating Patreon, this might be the cheapest amount you can pay to learn how to build a really fucking good Patreon. Just pay that little bit, scroll through.
That's a good point. And yeah, it is like it's a lot of practice and but yeah, to kind of go back if people wanting, actually that's a really good point, Crumbs. Like eventually I got to a good space. At the start it was pretty confusing, but I think in the past like year it got to a pretty tight space where yeah, if you can replicate that similar model, see how you go.
Dude,
but if I come back, then you have to fuck off out of the scene because I want that Patreon spot to be like Tiddy Beans is going to be the baller Patreon spot. Not really. I'm even conflicted whether I'll like do it again because it's so much work and it's been really nice.
But dude, but that's why it was good though, man, is because it was you were very attentive to it. You know what I mean? I honestly felt like, I mean, so I've been a part of a lot of Patreons, dude, and with yours, it was the most expensive one that I was a part of, but I thought it was well worth it, dude, because you really do get access to pieces before they hit Instagram. You really do get stuff that's not, you know, on there, and it's updated consistently, dude. You know what I mean? Like there was always something going on with Patreon. Every morning I'd wake up, there'd be something new from Patreon, or every other day or something like that. And I think that is one of the big keys of Patreon and making a successful one is, you know, letting people get what their money, what are they paying for, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, am I just getting a figure or am I just getting, you know, a bunch of other stuff on top of that? With yours, it was like a combination of a whole bunch of stuff, man. And so it made it very worth it. I would suggest that anybody who wanted to see how to run a Patreon and just kind of look at the consistency and the flow of posts and the amount of pictures and the amount of information, like, dude, get on that Tiddy Bean one and just start scrolling, man. That is how to do a Patreon, man. 100%, dude. That was dope. If that comes back, you bet your ass I will sign right back up for that thing, dude. 100%.
Thanks. Something that's actually really weird since I kind of paused payments and stuff and maybe did a post, I don't know if it was on Instagram or something in my stories, but the next day I had like 7 new patrons. So it took a while to kind of get it. Like I would have like the tight crew, but getting extras to come in. But all of a sudden I had like 29 patrons and was like, must be something wrong with my phone or the app's updating. It's fucking weird. But I don't know if people were getting like free access to it because like there was a couple of people joined all in the one day, and I was like, were they doing like maybe Patreon was doing a deal where you could get like a free trial or a squiz, but super weird. I still haven't actually worked out what that's about, but yeah, it was like the time that I actually like decided to shut down the Patreon is when like my subscriptions just go straight up. So that was weird, but I'm not sure if that was some sort of fucking trial deal or something. But yeah. Anyway, thanks.
Solid, man. Tiddy, dude, you know how we do, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, sir. Good night, homie. I think he was going to say thank you so much, but I don't know. Probably nothing else. Dude, okay, so what's funny to me is Tiddy being... So, first off, I've already saved all the tabs that I was going to do. They're in a little folder labeled Toyz Alive for next week, because I'm not going to make everybody sit through another 40 minutes of tabs after we've just seen all this stuff. But the first time I ever interviewed Tiddy Bean Toyz, we sat down. I used to try and make the interviews about an hour and a half. We sat there, I'm pretty sure, maybe 6 hours. I started hearing birds waking up outside. And even he said it. He was like, I knew this was going to happen, man. So the fact that we only ended up doing 3, not bad.
Well, shit, dude. I mean, Tiddy's one of those dudes where you let him go for however long he wants to go for. You know what I mean? It's just there's no hour time limit. There's no 30 minutes. Whenever Tiddy's done talking, that's when Tiddy's off the show. You know what I mean? But dude, phenomenal collection. I mean, that started off with it. We got off the collection topic really quick over there. I knew that was going to happen, dude. But it was, I mean, those pieces that he has, dude, it's really cool to me to see what, what artists are collecting. You know what I mean? It's, he had a really good selection of vinyl stuff that he said he didn't show, but dude, just some really cool pieces in there, dude. But what a pain in the ass to have to move all that, dude. Oh my God.
Okay, so I don't envy him in the least, but when I moved from North Bay, I basically had 2 days that I was given out of the week where it was like, you're allowed to enter in to grab your stuff. You're allowed to come in and grab your stuff. And you're like, mother of fuck, right? It's me and Peter. And I felt so bad for Peter because the issue is like the first whole fucking day, I was sitting there with bubble wrap, just every single piece, bubble wrapping it, putting it like in one of those Destructo boxes, doing the next, just trying to make everything as safe as possible. Because yeah, you're like, damn, didn't plan on moving all these indie toys. And the reality is like even when they get shipped, right? Like people will tell you, be like, be careful about the saber, be careful about the sword, be careful about the. Now you're wrapping it up and you're like, mother of fuck, I hope I don't break this. Like, you just moved rooms and reset it up. You know it, dude.
I know. It's, and it's packing it up, but then it's unpacking it and setting it back up.
That is, okay, let's be real. Setting them up, we're all monsters because there's people who just, they don't get it. Like, the first time I ever set up a geek wall, I remember the human I was with at the time, they were like, why is it taking so long? And I just trying to explain to them because things belong with the things they're things of. So it takes longer. If you've got a Batman DVD and comics, the Batman DVDs and comics and Batman toys have to be together. But you also have to be able to see and access all of it. And I need to know, like, well, if that's taking up this chunk, what's taking up this chunk? What's taking up that chunk? What's taking up over this chunk, right? And before you know it, you're just trying to plot it. And you're just staring there for, like, fucking beautiful mind shit. I don't envy his collection is so much more expansive and extensive than what we saw this evening, man. And
yeah,
for the bootlegs he had, I loved the fact that it was like right off the hop, he was listing off like high rollers, but also as we were getting glimpses, there's the dudes and the homies we know, right? You've got this lovely mix of just kind of like the dudes that we've been like peeing by the urinal beside, and then the dudes who like are the celebs that just happen to slide in once or twice. It's a dope collection.
Yeah, dope collection. Baby BOD says, Baby BOD, man, got some good questions tonight. I got a semi-heavy question. What do you think will happen to your collection when you die? I don't know. Somebody's going to be busy. I know that much. I don't know, man. I don't know. Some of these pieces I hope will go back to the people who made them, honestly. I don't know. Maybe I'll be buried with a few of them. My kids will get some of them, all of them for sure. I've thought about that before, man, of trying to chronicle everything and just maybe like do a video and start pointing stuff out. The cool thing is about Instagram is, and I don't know if it'll always be there, if that content will always be there, but there is research that's available. Or there's at least somebody who can point you in the right direction if somebody ever wanted to go down that road of, hey, where did this come from, or where did this get made? I don't know if people are going to be interested in that or not, man. I don't know. I hope that somebody doesn't stumble across this stuff one day and just be like, what is all this garbage, and then just clear it out. I'd probably set it up so it's not like that, but I don't know, man. It's a shitty thing to think about, honestly. But I don't know. I don't know.
I legitimately often fantasize about this idea of picturing just like how when I used to bin dig, because COVID kind of disrupted that a little bit. But admittedly, when I used to bin dig, there was tons of times that you'd look at a figure and there'd be an aesthetic about it or something, and you'd be looking all over for that stamp. And it wasn't because you were curious how much it might be worth. It was because you were curious to see, like, is this from a toy line? Is this from the company? Is this from... You're just trying to look for any kind of evidence of it. And a small part of me does hope that when somebody looks up one day and they're like, "What's up with this fucking pink and purple Batman with a red cape?" But they do end up finding Hurt Toys' account. Now the other thing is
Yeah.
that admittedly when I was leaving North Bay, I was even told basically kind of like, "Hey, you might want to update your will," and that was around that same time. And I messaged you even, and I was like, "Hey, B, nothing dark or morbid, but I'm supposed to update my will with things because it's just human beings that are in my life at this point. Just so you know, I don't know anybody's gonna give a fuck about my indie toys. So you cool getting them?" So, like yourself, there'll be ones that probably go to close friends. There'll probably be ones I make sure make it back to their makers. But otherwise, like if you're still kicking when I'm dipping, they're your problem.
Well, and you know what, man? I like watching like antique shows and history shows sometimes when people find stuff, or mostly, I don't know if you've seen American Pickers, dude. I mean, I don't really watch that anymore, but basically going to these people's houses and finding stuff. And then sometimes what I never really understood was sometimes these people just start giving stuff away. They're like, no, just take it, man, or just take it for, I don't know, give me $10 for it. And then it's worth, 10 times that sometimes. And the point is, though, and I start to really understand this now, is when they say you're gonna like it and you're gonna take care of it, and so you can have it. You do what you want with it, man. And I think for me, there would be a lot of comfort in knowing that I don't need to necessarily get paid for this. I don't want to sell it to you, but I know that you're gonna either take care of it or give it to somebody that means something. It's not just like a piece of resin. It's not just some 5.5 action figure. You know what I mean? That gets thrown in a box. It's not that at all.
You know damn well how I feel about certain toys. They have a soul, man. Like I really had this conversation with somebody today. I'm like, I know it's weird for a lot of you people because they were like, "Would I be able to have one of your?" And I was like, "No." And I was like, I know that sounds so selfish. I know that maker. If you're interested, I've got no problem getting in touch with that maker for you and getting that piece that you're curious about. But the issue is that because that's mine, it has a soul. It's really important to me where that goes and who it belongs to, and I have to ensure it's going to be in a great home. And the reality is that me giving you that is probably about the same as me giving somebody a ring. Not about to happen. So, unfortunately, that's just the reality. Now, the other thing is that like brats, man. I've said to you a couple of times. I showed them on the Grail piece last week. When those came out, I grabbed a lot of them. They were for a very affordable price for a Canadian. They were 2 for 15, I believe. And so it was like a no-brainer to be like, I need armies of these. Over time, those have slowly made their way over to other people. And it's not that I'm selling them to other people. It's like, yeah, it's a dope-ass piece. This maker deserves to be on your shelf, and I think you deserve to have a piece that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have known existed.
Yeah, that's true. Jimmy Folklore, that's a good point, man. Aliens who inherit our planet will dig up resin and use it as the only reference point for ancient human existence. Yeah, man. I mean, to take it to another level, I guess you could say the stuff that will be around, and like what happened if like humankind did go away, what would be left? And whoever came here or whatever came here found these things, what would they think of these things, or where they came from? Or like if there was no record of anything, dude, and you came across a Hurt Toys Voltron figure, you'd be like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? And then the alien would be like, well, it's really well made, and I love this magnetic articulation here. Probably not.
I'll admit, I was sitting here thinking to myself, like, oh crap, I gotta remind B that just last episode I was telling him, like, everything in my collection is essentially a butt plug, wearing gloves when you get my toys. But then I couldn't help but picture an alien landing who's just like me and going, what's this, huh? What's this, huh? And, yeah.
Oh, man. Are we giving something?
I was gonna ask, are we gonna be doing a giveaway this evening, or what are we feeling here tonight, man? Because otherwise, I believe like, we could probably let the homies go. We're talking about literally licking butt plugs at this point, basically. I've got a pile of Grayskull here. I know you've got a horde there. What are you feeling? Did you have anything planned for tonight? Did we have any thoughts for tonight, or are we just
I mean,
chilling?
Whatever you want to do, we could do one of yours. I didn't really I mean, I have a lot of stuff over here. I'm looking at it. I'm just thinking what we could do. I mean, I guess we could always leave it up to the winner to see what they wanted to do, and throw a couple things out there is what we could do.
All right.
Okay, let's do that.
So basically, whoever wins on the wheel, say B or Crumbs, will both hold up 3 things, and you let us know what you like of those 3 things. I've got some Antil and some Grayskull toys here. And then otherwise, we'll make sure to get that out into the rest of the universe throughout the next little bit, man. If you don't see yourself on the wheel, please chime in and let us know, hey, I'm not on that wheel. I will try and get to you as soon as possible and make sure that we get you on that wheel. I've got Street Fight, SPDX, Samako, Bootleg Toy Code, Mr. Ordinary, Nim Studios, Porpoise, Folklorian, Fletcher, Sandvik, Skilled One, Jazz Wizard, Tiddy Toys, Dre's, Suki, Vomiting Droids, Colin Has Been, Mal Toys, Baby Woe 2, Sam's Reptile Shack, Ray Skull Toys, Von Fake Name, Slightly Adrift, Dylan Clement, Resin Blood, Dustin Potts, Baby BOD, Retrozone Neon, Burial, Bobo, Dazzle, Strawberry, Strafe, Summon, Baba Drock, Southside Toy, Goblin Mob, and Wreck Shop Resin.
Bam.
I believe I must be missing some people. I've got about 33 entries, and there was actually around that maybe 33 to 39 chilling in the chat there tonight. Need to grab this, pull this down so I can see you guys chiming in. Boom, boom. Whew.
Wheelofnames.com. That's the first time I ever noticed that.
Dude, yeah, that's why I laughed from the very first day that we've ever pulled this up. I literally went to Google and said Wheel of Names, and the first choice was wheelofnames.com. I've never even explored it. Look, apparently we can customize it. Apparently we can open and save lists and shit. We can share. Apparently there's a gallery option. Nah, what do? Copy and paste a bajillion names from the stupid fucking YouTube chat every night, and then do a shuffy. Fun fake name. Did I miss you, homie? I don't know how. Yeah, no, there you are. And yes, I'm sorry, homies. Grayskull Toys, you gave a little ha there, and I'm sorry, homie. We're lackluster on our giveaway energy this evening, but the giveaways that we have all been sitting on are fucking rad as hell. So anybody who doesn't like it can pick a toy. All right, nobody's chiming in from what I can see. I've got live chat on. I don't see anybody chiming in there. Missed. Treze is there. Good. Shuffle up, I guess. There. Wow, I don't know. That's how tired we are at this point. Shuffle up. Guys, spinning it. And we will double down on the tabs next week. I've got a slew of them. Retrozone Neon. Scroll up, see if Retrozone Neon's one of the homies who has tucked in for the evening. Because I know a few of you have tucked in for the evening, so I'm going to double check here. Because that way we can reach out to them in the DMs. Nobody can steal the original creation. There we go. No, that's what I'm seeing. So I don't see him saying I'm going to bed. But, oh, fuck, Stormico Station, man. I'm so sorry, dude. And what's crazy is I didn't even remember, like, no, you're not invisible to my love. I was literally just on your
Invisible
page.
to your love.
What's crazy to me, man, is I thought for sure I already had you on here. I looked at your name several times because I wanted to show off one of your pages this evening, and I even just have a tab right now. Because, yeah, if anybody hasn't been watching, Stormico Station's got a whole slew of casts they're working on. They want to get out into the aether as well. Make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled for that. I am so sorry I missed you on the wheel, man. I swear it's not intentional. I'm just an idiot.
I don't know if they're still in the room. I'm looking at the chat and I don't see them in here. So what did they win? I don't know.
I'll hit them up from the toy account and I'll say, hey man, you won last night. Let me know. Would you rather get something from Crumbs or B? And then that way we'll
that's
go
gonna
from there,
be
maybe.
It's gonna be cheaper for me. It's gonna be cheaper for me.
Well,
He's in the States.
Well,
Next time one of you Canadians wins, we'll let Crumbs send that out. I'll tell you what, man. Canada's about to get air raided by Vacaville, California, and this mail drop, dude. I think I sent out 4 to Canada. Like just recently, I'm looking at the names and I'm like, Canada. Oh, another Canada. A couple more, but oh shit, another Canada. Canada's on a hot streak right now on the old wheel. Except for this one. This week, you did not win. It was the US. So
Jesse Sketches, Retrozone Neon.
correct, Jesse Sketches, man. There you go. Yeah.
There's something about that dude's work that is actually very, very, very like brainwormy. Like I can literally visualize their Etsy store to their name every time, even though they've changed their name in the last couple months. There's just something.
And he's a video game designer. I know that he worked on Halo heavily.
Oh, he ended up. I think he was designed one of the skins for one of the new vehicles in the Halo game that they're making.
Something
a vehicle,
like that,
actual physical. What is it? You buy the toy vehicle. It comes with a code. You put that code in. You get to drive that skin in the game.
Ah, okay.
Maybe.
I have no clue.
Oh, let me see what else I got up here. I might have a couple more things. You know, that THX one was pretty good earlier. There must be something else.
Oh man,
Just
that
dug
was
way up.
beautiful. He was like, "Nah, that's not what it is. This is what it is." You're like, "Oh, okay."
But you know, Tiddy man, if you can actually, for any girl I've ever dated in the past and any in the future, teach them how you got me to just go, oh shit, you're right, I'm wrong. You'll be a millionaire, homie. You'll be a millionaire. Just that's all. Just teach all of us men how to just yeah.
It just yeah. What else we got, man? We wrapping it up for tonight,
I think we're
or
gonna wrap it and slap it, homie, for sure.
okay, all right. Next
Let
week,
that 3 hours.
Barbarian Rage. That'll be fun. We'll be talking about multiple things. We haven't had Scott on the show yet, so that'll be fun, man. I'm super excited about that. That's going to be a good show. He is on the verge of that. There's a festival down in LA, in I believe next weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend. There's going to be some artists out there, and I know he's got a table out there. I believe
Fest, eh?
Tag Fest, yes, and Saruga Mark's going to be out there.
The Quail Boys. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Kashi Records. And yo, mad respect, dude. Compton's gonna be chilling with them. The old Chompton, the robots, the vegan robot.
Nice, dude. Yeah. And you know what, man? I was honestly thinking of driving down there for that just for the day. Like, why not? And then I decided, no, I'm not doing that. But it looks cool though. It looks like a good time. Looks like there's a lot of people there. I believe it's mixed with a concert, right? Isn't it like a music festival? And then they have, I think there's a music festival, and then there's for the layout that I saw looked like the tables were kind of like as you walk into the music venue. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But anyways, look good.
Me don't know. All right, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna message the good old Jesse Sketches in the DMs, and otherwise we're gonna let these yahoos go home. Everybody for chilling this late. Thank you very, 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 very much. And yeah, we'll do this all again next Thursday. All those tabs, I'm sorry I didn't get to them. I know everybody's gonna cry themselves to sleep not knowing what's gonna be an account under 1,000 or some pieces under $30 or the history of the Alushi that LM9 made, but we'll have to get to all that another time.
Hey, next week. Next week is the time. Next Thursday.
Yes. Well, and we're going to rush through fucking real fast too, because we've got a celeb coming in. I sound sarcastic as shit saying that, but no, I don't want to waste any fucking Scott Cherry's time. Tiddy Bean, yeah, I'll waste all the time in the world. Sir Cherry.
3.5 hours. Dude, that's nice. That's the longest show that we've done in a while.
Jazz. I was thinking that. I was like, Jazz Wiz might have been the longest we've had in a very long while.
Yeah, great episode.
Remember when we used to do like 4-hour episodes sometimes? Just doing shit like this?
Yeah, when we were just like, hey, I don't know, should we turn this thing off now? I guess. I don't know, we've been on it for 4 hours.